1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
All right, hot off the press, I just got word that the Detroit Lions are making a trade. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show, by the way. Give me 1 second. That's it. The Detroit Lions have now traded this year's first, next year's first, and this year's second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is going to be a Detroit Lion here in 2025. Eric, I can't wait to talk about this with you, buddy. What excellent news we got here on this, was it Tuesday today, right? Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
What do you think, man? Trey Hendrickson's not going to become a Detroit. I didn't think we were going to pull this off, especially with Brad Holmes down at the league meetings yesterday.
Well, maybe this is what he was saving all that money for.
It must have been the Khalif deal that they organized that got him enough money, that $1.5 million.
That's it. That's what put him over the top.
Or it could just be April 1st. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. It's April 1st. Yeah, just kidding. Good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Got some swampland in the UP I'm trying to sell too.
Some swampland?
Yeah.
I got some fresh water in the middle of Hawaii too, but some moon property.
Yeah. Oh man. It's crazy how fast people in the chat were calling it out.
Yeah, they were prepared. I mean, I don't do a whole lot like that, but they were prepared, obviously.
Oh, crap.
Is what it is, April 1st, April Fool's Day. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to Rise and Grind Morning Show. We've got a lot to talk about today, so that wasn't the truth. That was a funny ha-ha. So the truth is Brad Holmes, man. Always has been, always will be. And I feel like this channel has also been trying to provide the truth, the transparency, the honest reporting about exactly what this team is about and what we've been seeing, what we've been hearing, what some people have been reporting is that Brad has never wavered from what he said he's going to do. And so for those that continue to pound the drum, beat the chest, and get at this fan base and get it all riled up, I don't understand. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having opinions. We talk about that every day. But I think that more importantly, why can't we just have an honest conversation? And I think Brad laid it out again yesterday really well in the annual league meeting interview he had with multiple reporters and journalists. And so my question is to all of them, you've now heard Brad for 5 seasons, 5 off seasons. Has he not said the same thing every single year? And has he not done the same thing every single year? What is going to make you believe in 2026 during the offseason that it's going to be any different? Now, it could. There could be a season where it's different. There absolutely could be. Maybe we're just not there yet. But what Brad said yesterday, we're going to talk about today. We're also going to bring in the video, and it'll be movie day for a little bit because I want to break it all down, bit by bit. But we're going to talk about it first, and then in the last half hour or so, we'll bring in the video and we'll talk about it. So anyway, good morning, Eric. What's happening, man?
Oh, enjoying the day. And yesterday was pretty cool. There was lots of videos coming out and lots of news from the league owners meetings. And there's going to be a ton more today because we're going to get to hear from Rod Wood today. We'll hear from Dan Campbell today. Did get to hear a little bit from him yesterday, but there was 3 videos came out just from Brad Holmes alone yesterday. One with Fox 2 with Dan Miller. And then there was one with Mike Florio. And then there was one with Dave Burkett and all the reporters down at the league meetings. So there was a lot of information that came out yesterday, a ton. and some of it was kind of cryptic, and it's fun to sit and pick it apart and be able to figure out exactly what they're saying. And I've already seen reporting going both ways on the exact same thing. So yeah, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of all this.
Adam G, I'm sorry, man. I'm going back to the earlier comments here where I'm talking about Trey Hendrickson coming to the Detroit Lions on April Fool's Day. Most of you were ready for it, but it's just funny to see the quick turnaround. Like he better not be joking about this. And big shout out to Gina this morning for the $4.99 super chat right off the get. Appreciate you guys. So man, we got a lot to talk about. Let's get this NFL news out of the way. I think that's probably the best place to start today because we'll finish with Lions news for the majority of the morning. So,
okay,
what's the update on the NFL uniform policy?
So this one has me pumped. I love this one, and a lot of fans are going to love it. This is probably my favorite thing to come out of the meeting so far. So the NFL has updated its uniform policy on Monday. At the annual league meetings, the league informed NFL team owners that their clubs could wear their throwbacks or alternate jerseys up to 4 times in a 17-game regular season. That's up from the previous 3. And that means that some of the fan favorite uniform combinations, as well as never before seen combos, will be seen with more regularity across the league. This is huge for Lions fans right here, as I am absolutely in love with this idea. And I love the black Motor City jerseys. They're my favorite. I wore one this morning. I got my Hutch on right now. There's Hutch right there. And the black Motor City jerseys with the blue helmet with the black lion are my favorite jerseys of all time. And now the Detroit Lions could wear them up to 4 times a season instead of 3, or they could wear the throwbacks for a game or 2 instead as well. Last year, everybody was clamoring for the black jerseys to be worn more than 3 times. We wore them on the Monday night game against the Seahawks to start the year. We wore them against the Bills, and then we wore them. What was the other time? I think Thanksgiving. There was one other time. And so we ended up wearing them 3 times this past year, and we did not wear the throwbacks. And there was a lot of fans that were upset that we didn't wear the throwbacks. So I wonder if Brad and Dan and Rod Wood knew that this new rule might be coming down the pipe, and everyone was clamoring for the black jerseys. I know there's some purists, some people that, have been around for a long time that are fans of the Detroit Lions that don't like the black jerseys because they remind them of the Matt Millen era, because Matt Millen was the one that originally brought the black jerseys to begin with. And I think we've done it our own way with Brad and Dan and Rod Wood, and I think they've done it classy, and it looks so much better than the old ones. And I just absolutely love it. So what do you think about this? Now they can do one extra game with the alternate jerseys and even have some new combos.
I love it. I think that it's the new combos that I'm more excited about. Absolutely more excited about, because there are some combos that we have not seen yet.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see that blue helmet possibly getting worn with, the whites, or, maybe black pants in the blue top, or, black top, blue pants and the blue helmet. There's so many different combinations of the blue pants, the blue helmet, maybe the black jersey. I mean, there's so much you could do here. Let me pull this in real quick, because there's
just having the blueberries with that blue helmet and the black lion would be so awesome.
Oh, it's a little off, but you can see like what I'm talking about. I'd love to see this blue helmet, the blue pants, and the black jersey. I think that would look sick.
Yep. That was one of the combos that they had, and they never did wear it that way. They went with all monochrome last year, except for the Bucks game. On game 2 was the only game we did not wear a monochrome. See, we never went with that combo either.
Yeah, we never saw the white and the blue.
No.
And then, of course, the all black. You can't. I mean, the muscle, man. That's what it's all about. Love it,
man. Those all blacks look so good.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, it's the little things that I think that bring people a little bit of happiness throughout the season. So that's cool, man. I'm glad that they get to do it a little bit more. I'm curious what it means for the postseason, though. Does Does any of this spill over into the postseason?
It didn't say anything. And I wish they would make some adjustments to the uniforms for the postseason. That is something, because I wish they could wear their alternates or throwbacks in, what if the Lions were to get to the Super Bowl and you're going to tell them you can't wear your throwbacks?
Right.
That would be the ultimate throwback day, is to go to the Super Bowl and be the home team that year and be able to wear your throwbacks.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost feel like they'd stay. Oops, almost knocked everything over. I almost feel like they'd stay pretty classic. But we'll see what happens when we get there this year, right?
Yeah.
All right. So next up, Jimmy Haslam, Browns owner, talks about the Deshaun Watson trade. This might be the first time that he's really admitted anything, I guess, and kind of to a degree he admitted something. What did he say about this Deshaun Watson deal?
Yeah. So Jimmy Haslam was talking at the owners meetings yesterday, and the Cleveland Brass is finally taking accountability for the move of Deshaun Watson. The Cleveland Browns stood by Deshaun Watson despite innumerable on and off the field issues. On Tuesday, though, roughly 3 years after acquiring the quarterback via trade from the Houston Texans and rewarding him with a record $230 million fully guaranteed contract, Browns ownership declared the move as a big swing and a miss.
I think it was a bit bigger than that, but
yeah,
it's not like we're out there playing t-ball, buddy. I mean, you didn't just swing and miss, like you sunk the whole team.
Yes. And there's many pundits out there that are saying that this was probably the worst trade in NFL history.
Oh yeah, that absolutely was.
That's pretty horrible. But team owner Jimmy Haslam used the phrase at Tuesday's NFL owners meeting via the Cleveland.com, adding that fans and media can hold me and D accountable, a reference to his wife and co-owner. We took a big swing and a miss with Deshaun. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't. And we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him. So we've got to dig ourselves out of that hole. It was an entire organizational decision, and it ends with D&I. So hold us accountable.
Yeah. Well, if they can dig themselves out, I mean, they just gave Myles Garrett $40 million. They're doing exactly what I thought that they would do, at least so far, in free agency. And so, I mean, as it goes, we'll see what the Browns do. I just don't have any faith that they're going to be able to do anything until they get past this contract. They have to get past it. Now, I know that they created some space this year. They put a lot of that money into a signing bonus, and that does alleviate some future, how do I want to put it? Some future cap that's going to go his way, that opens up some cap for the Browns to spend. Maybe they'll be dug out sooner rather than later, but the question is always going to remain, are they going to be able to get on top of it and stay on top of it? I'm not a Browns fan, but you know what? The Browns and the Lions were kind of synonymous for all of these decades of futility, just both terrible organizations for such a long time. And I mean that from a on-field perspective, not anything else, just the on-field product. And I guess the backfield product too is, the deals that were made that collapsed these organizations from within. The Browns just haven't figured out a way to get beyond it. Maybe they'll finally get beyond it. And then, look, last bit of NFL news is NFL changes the flex scheduling rules for Thursday night games.
Yeah. So the upcoming season will mark the third year that the NFL has had the ability to flex Thursday night games. Under the rules that were put in place for 2023 and 2024, a Thursday night game could only be flexed if it took place between weeks 13 and 17. And if a game did get moved, the league had to give 28 days notice. Under the new rule that was passed on Monday, the NFL can now flex a Thursday game with just 21 days notice. So that now gives the league an extra week to decide whether a game needs to be flexed. The approval came at the NFL's annual league meetings in Florida. In the 2 years that the Thursday flex has existed, only one game has been moved, and that came last season. In week 16, the Bengals and Browns were slated to play each other on Thursday night, but that game got bumped in favor of Broncos Chargers. So what do you think about this new rule only giving them 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks to prepare?
Well, I think that it helps them a little bit with. I think that they should be able to change it the week of, but so this is specific to Thursday night games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was thinking, man, the Lions were flexed last year on week 18.
Yeah.
So if it's specific to Thursday night games only, then I guess you really can't change that the week of. That would be really tough.
The problem they had with Thursday night football was for years, every game was a dud.
Yeah.
Because they always threw the worst teams, it'd always be Patriots Browns on Thursday night football.
Well, but those aren't necessarily the worst games. You've got some really good rivalry matches going on, and you just don't know what these teams are going to be every year. I think it just kind of ends up that way, that you kind of get these crap games on Thursday. And then not only that, it's Thursday. So if you just played 4 days ago, you're not going to be able to turn around and put on a great show on Thursday. I don't care who you are. Look, these guys are so dead tired after these games, and you're not giving them any time to prepare, any time to rest. These guys are jumping on planes, going back home. Sometimes it's East Coast to West Coast. Time zone changes, and then they host a home game, and 3 days later, there's no time. These guys are prepping on the plane home. I think that Thursday night games are a problem, to be honest with you. I think that they need to totally ratify the schedule, and that no team ever should have less than 7 days or 6 days at a minimum to prep for a game. I think that has been a long time problem. It needs to be changed. But as far as scheduling goes, whatever. Change it within 3 weeks. I guess it doesn't really matter to me. It is what it is. But I get your point here. There's been some duds.
Yeah, it's just for so long. Even the commentators on Thursday night football would talk about, another 10-7 dud tonight in Cleveland. And it seemed like Cleveland was always in these horrible games on Thursday nights. I don't know why they always seemed like them, or just the worst, whoever the worst team in the league was, it'd be like the Cardinals and the Jets would play. And it was always like, man, why can't you put some good teams on Thursday night? It seemed like the good teams were always Sundays and Mondays, Sunday night and Monday night football. They never had to play on Thursday. So I like that the league is spreading the wealth around on who the good games are.
So Nick P mentioned something. Are the Lions on the 26th schedule for Brazil? I haven't seen that yet.
No, I haven't seen anything.
I know that the Lions added Brazil as a marketing partner, which, at some point you would think that only makes sense if you're trying to brand market, your team in another country. It's because maybe something's coming in the future. So I haven't heard of the Brazil and the Lions matchup for 2026.
No,
be interesting.
They haven't announced any of that yet, but they did give the Lions Switzerland, Brazil, and there was one more. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, Nick is foreshadowing. I got you, buddy. I got you. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, no, that'd be great if, to think about it that way. I would love to see the Lions do something international soon, and I wouldn't be opposed to going, obviously. I've never been to Brazil. It's been a bucket spot, but there's just been so much turmoil in that country. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I go, maybe I don't. All right, so let's get the first part of Lions news. Yesterday, obviously, the Lions were kind of shocked and awed to hear that Kaminsky decided to retire, and he retired because of injury. Now, he's had a decent career, right? He's been playing for many seasons. I thought that Kaminsky was one of the better pickups by Brad in the very beginning, and I felt that when he was on the field, I think he gave us a level of edge to his game, and he elevated those around him. He's one of the hardest workers on the team. And I really thought that there was a chance, if he could have just got healthy, last season, maybe he could have came back and played. But now I think that we're understanding that maybe Kaminsky didn't have a shot last year coming back because he was arguing with himself on whether he wanted to play again or not. And maybe rehab just hasn't gone the greatest for him. Maybe he's, suffering a little bit internally because of the injury. I think it was MCL that he dealt with. Hell of a football player, man. Hell of a good dude. So I guess congratulations in your retirement, but at the same time, I hope that it's everything that you want it to be, because obviously having to retire because of medical reasons is not the way you wanted to go out on your shield. So congratulations to you, Kaminsky. Eric, what did you have to say?
Well, he has to be a millionaire by now. He's made a few millions in the NFL. I didn't look it up, but when it's all said and done, don't you want to be able to walk normally?
Oh, for sure.
Don't you want to be able to play with your kids and your grandkids and, be able to go fishing or do whatever you enjoy doing, go golfing, and for somebody like the commish, I don't blame him, and the Detroit Lions defensive end, John Kaminsky, he announced via social media on Monday that he will be medically retiring from the NFL. Kaminsky spent just 6 seasons in the league, and he is calling it a career after missing the entire 2024 season due to a torn MCL. Kaminsky spent the first 3 years of his career with the Atlanta Falcons. He was selected with the 135th pick in the NFL draft after playing college football at D2 Charleston. After 6 years in the NFL, I am officially medically retiring. And I am proud of the career I had, but have accumulated a combination of injuries that are overwhelming my desire to continue playing. Thank you to the Atlanta Falcons for believing in me and drafting me an under the radar D2 prospect. Thank you to the Detroit Lions for grabbing me off waivers and giving me a second contract and allowing me to show that I can do, allowing me to show what I can do as an NFL starter. Thank you to the front offices and coaches that help build me up and believe in me. Who would have thought a small town Barberton, Ohio QB would find his way to sacking NFL QBs? So he started off as a quarterback in a little town in Ohio, and he ended up being a defensive end, defensive lineman, sacking quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a pretty cool story. He's come full circle and calling it quits.
So he's made over 10 million in his career, by the way.
See, I would probably walk away too.
Well, it doesn't mean he has it all. I mean, you've got 50% taxes. Yeah. You've got probably, 5-6% agency fees at a minimum. If he's held on to a couple million of that, invested it right, I'm sure he'd be okay. But a lot of these guys don't just go and retire and stay retired. I'm sure he'll find something else to do. So if it wasn't his MCL that he's retiring from, which someone in the chat just said, Kaminsky's MCL injury isn't the reason he's hanging it up. I don't know what else it would be. I mean, I know he's had a couple of injuries, but the most recent was the MCL, which was last year. It's just a tough injury to come back from. Not like it's an easy one. Not everybody. I mean, he's 29 years old. Not everybody's body, responds the same way. But maybe he's battling something else. I don't know. But I don't know what other injuries he's really had over his career that would have been worse than that. I have no idea.
Yep.
Not a clue.
Yeah, it's sad to see him go. He was a fan favorite and, the underdog story from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was that T-shirt that he had on when he signed his contract with the Lions? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. But yesterday's news really was the biggest news of the day was Brad Holmes and in the annual league meetings. And so this next part we're going to get through, and then we're going to roll into the actual video. We'll watch it. We'll talk about it. And then I think that it only makes sense to highlight a few things that Brad has been talking about, things that I've been talking about that have lined up again. And I'm happy that we've got a good pulse on the team. I am. Now he mentioned a few things yesterday, like the fan. And, if I was a fan and I'd want to go spend all this money too, and I'd want to go out and, get all these players too. But at the same time, that's a fan's perspective, right? It's not the perspective of a general manager that has $279 million in his hand, more than $250 million that he has to manage. This is not like a small fund. It's not like this is your $100,000 annual salary that you have to manage to pay your bills, to take care of your family. This is over $250 million for a franchise that is worth more than $5 billion now, you have to make every move perfectly. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you miss. But this isn't just a game, right? A $250 million in Wall Street, that's not a small fund. I mean, I think that the entry fund, to get an ISDA is probably $2 billion now. That's a big fund. $250 million is not small. So I think that there's the difference between fans that understand what Brad's actually dealing with, and then there's the fan that is playing Madden, I think. And then there's the in-betweeners that just would love to see their team do great and would love to have this player or that player. And I get it. I understand it. But I'm not here to play Madden, right? I'm here to try to give you guys the information that we feel is palpable, in the information that we feel is going to reign true from season to season. I think so far we're pretty on target with the information that we've pulled down, the information that we've sourced, the information that we've shared. And Brad Holmes yesterday, again, I think that he definitely, how do I say it? He's made that information that we've shared even more, I guess, viable. And it's not like we're always right, because we're not. We're not. But the offseason strategy is where I want to start. The offseason strategy from the very beginning, I felt that the Lions were not going to be big spenders. Sure, you're going to go out and get a corner. You have to replace Carlton Davis. We expected that. That happened. We expected for them to hopefully get Carlton Davis first. And if that didn't happen, that they were going to be players. And whoever that was going to be, it was going to have to be an elite corner. We expected that. It happened. But the offseason strategy that Brad Holmes characterized this offseason as being successful is a far cry from what many fans were expecting. But he mentioned right away that he didn't anticipate being, quote, big spenders, end quote. It's the same thing that I said 8 weeks ago or longer. These guys were not going to go into free agency with just a blank check and go and sign all these big name free agents and completely blow up the roster and say F them picks. There was no way that they were going to do that. Not at the critical situation that they're in currently with players that they have on this roster that they've identified as core pieces that they want to keep. And I'm also glad that he also brought up Kirby Joseph as a part of that plan. Aiden Hutchinson is a part of that plan. J-Mo is kind of part of that plan. And the point that I'm trying to make here is with Kirby, if you don't do things a certain way, you can't keep players like Kirby. And there's no guarantee that they're even going to be able to keep Kirby. And I'm going to point that out here in his exact quote. And I'm going to flip it a little bit and we'll talk about it. But here's the first quote of Brad Holmes yesterday, talking about not being big spenders. He says, I'm more than happy with how the free agency went. I say more than happy because we were able to get guys that we really wanted to get. Like, we don't compromise and get a prospect that we're warm on. So happy with that. But more than happy because we actually were able to do more than what I thought we were going to be able to do heading into it. That's a huge statement, because I think a lot of fans right now are saying, what the hell have you done? Right? We hear it every day. What have you done, Brad? You got back the old team. You got the band back together. You got all these injured players. You got frickin' Davenport. And whatever it is you guys are thinking, right? We've heard it all. We've seen it all. We've read it all. We've heard it from all the other channels. But I'm over here saying, man, I'm super stoked with the way this team is put back together. And it's just nuts, the things that I'm saying, how I'm feeling, how Eric's feeling. And then there's like a cliff. Like, everyone just jumps off this cliff and they're like, oh my God, what is this team? And Brad's sitting here telling us he didn't even think he was going to do this much. Let that soak in for a minute. He didn't even think he was going to get this far. But he did. And as we get into this, some things make a little bit more sense. Holmes stated that he felt it was important to maintain the talent at cornerback, highlighting the acquisition of DJ Reed at a favorable price compared to other cornerbacks, which he described as a, quote, slight discount, end quote. At $16 million annually, I mean, I guess that's a discount. He noted the importance of maintaining talent, especially at the cornerback position. Here's his quote. That corner market was expensive. The get in the door entry price was $16 million. If you would have told me that we would have been able to get a corner for that much with the defensive lineman that we were able to get and getting wide receiver Tim Patrick back and all that, I wouldn't have thought that we were going to be able to do that, end quote. So just like I was saying a minute ago, he didn't even think that he was going to be able to get the defensive lineman that he got, let alone the ones that he's about to get, as he stated it. If you didn't catch that, and getting, what does that mean? And then also Tim Patrick. So I think that if you really look at this and you understand what he's saying here, number one, they didn't expect to be able to bring all these guys back at all. Number two, they didn't expect to be able to bring these guys back at the rates that they did. Pretty cheap contracts. And the fact that they were able to get those contracts and those guys back at the rates that they did, I feel like there's more to it than Brad just did a good job here. I think that these players wanted to be in Detroit. They wanted to be here. Yep, probably weren't happy about taking a low contract, but they'd rather be with a winner. They'd rather hitch their wagon to the Lions than not. They know that they have more opportunity for success here as opposed to maybe going to the Browns or the Giants or the Raiders or wherever. The last one, then I'm going to flip it to Eric. In referencing to why the Lions haven't made any splashes this offseason outside of DJ Reed, Holmes said, balancing the budget is a bit like balancing personal finances. That's right. Brad has a 529 plan. This was hilarious to me. He says, quote, you have financial responsibilities. You have a mortgage or your kid's college fund, your 529 program. You have insurance. You have to pay. You know you have to pay those things. But that might require that you can't take the vacation that you really want right now that summer. So that's kind of where we are at right now. End quote. Has that not been the message that I've been saying this entire year? That if you want to keep guys like Kirby, if you want to be able to keep guys in the future like J-Mo, Jameer, Laporta, Branch, if you want to be able to give Aiden a big contract and keep him around for several seasons, you're not going to be able to go out and spend. You have to hoard as much money as you can and flip it over to the next season. I mean, Brad's right now trying to save $1.5 million in 2026. And many people are probably glossing over that, thinking, why does that even matter? Every penny matters next year. Next year is a tough season for the Lions from a financial perspective. So again, if you've been paying attention to this channel from the very beginning, those three first topic headlines, statements, quotes by Brad Holmes, it is exactly what we've been talking about. Exactly what we've been talking about. Eric, walk us through. Well, actually, Eric, give me your thoughts on those three topics there.
Well, listen, it leads into something that isn't on our sheet, I don't think. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't see it on our sheet at all. But Brad talked about something, and he said we just couldn't afford some of these contracts, because what we've done and how well he's drafted. And he did talk about Zadarius Smith a little bit and said he just couldn't do it. He couldn't pull it off, couldn't afford it. And he said he's been in contact with Z's agent and they've been in talks. So he's trying to bring him back cheaper. And everybody that was freaking out about it just needs to calm down. I think they're going to end up getting something done with him. And
yeah, we'll come back to that one towards the end. I want to throw, obviously Z in at the end of that. But what were your overall thoughts on those three quotes there? That obviously, he wasn't anticipating getting these players back. Number one, he was able to get them back. Yep. Number two, that the corner market was extremely expensive. The barrier to entry was $16 million. And then to be able to bring Tim Patrick back on top of that, the defensive lineman that, he also brought back. And then thirdly, talking about being able to pay your bills, right? And that's the future. And that's the future bills of the program that they're trying to be prepared for. What did you think about those first three main topics?
Well, not only is Brad an amazing GM, he's very, very good at what he does, but I also think that he's very extremely lucky at times. He was lucky to get back Tim Patrick, and he was lucky to get DJ Reed where he did and as quick as he did, because DJ Reed must not have been paying attention to the rest of the cornerback market, because it was nutty. And there's guys getting 20-30 million dollars at corner now, and we got this guy for $16 million. The steal of the offseason was right there.
Let me expand on that, because like you're saying, him not paying attention potentially to the cornerback market.
Yeah.
I remember DJ Reed at his press conference, he was asked a question about that, kind of similar to that. And he said that, this is not a direct quote, that he wasn't offered another contract that was higher. So
really?
he said, it's not like I was offered another contract that was higher that he turned down. He wanted to be where he wanted to be. He felt it was right for him. He took what was equitable and fair at the time. And we'll have to go back and recap that, because he mentioned something to that point. And so it kind of fits right in line with what you're saying. Like, man, we got lucky to a degree, because he probably could have got more. Absolutely.
Yeah. The whole free agency thing too, and I spoke about luck, and I think some of that luck comes from his hard work. And what I mean by that, the Lions are good now. We were 15-2 without some defensive injuries. We probably go to the freaking Super Bowl last year. I don't care what anybody says. If we were healthy, we would have beat anybody last year. So other players are seeing that. And that's where you're getting Tim Patrick back on an incredibly low deal. You're getting all these other players super cheap, Lopez and DJ Reed. These guys want to come here. We've never had where we get the hometown discount for free agents that aren't even our own players. Levi O signed a hometown discount here. Levi O could have went somewhere and got a way more money, but he came back on a 1-year prove it. He's going to prove it. You watch. He's going to play out of his mind this year. So I
firmly believe that.
So I think that Brad has a little bit of luck and a whole bunch of skill, and it's all coming together perfectly. And man, are some of these guys just falling in his lap, and he's looking at it like, holy crap, how did I pull this off?
I think he's pulling it off because of what he's been able to provide. And from the very beginning of taking over this organization and rebuilding it as quickly as what they did. And I'm not saying that the rebuild is done, because it really never is. They're still retooling from year to year. But to go from 3-13-1 to barely out of the playoffs the next year, and then the NFC Championship in a third season, and then top of the league the next season, top 2 teams in the NFL. Yeah, they got bounced early, but there's not one team out there that went through what the Lions went through. So players see that. And DJ Reed saw that, where he kept saying the standard was the standard, no matter who got injured, no matter who was on the field. You didn't see any of these guys take a play off. And it's fun to be around guys that, live, eat, and breathe the same type of energy that maybe you have. You perform at such a higher level. Keep on going, and then I want to come back to cap space before we get into the next future planning part of this.
Yeah. Listen, let's see. So the money thing. Brad Holmes has drafted so well, and he's trying to pay his own players. He wants to pay Kirby. He wants to pay Hutch. He wants to pay all these guys. And he said as much yesterday that he's keeping the purse strings tight, and he is passing the marshmallow test on his own. So if you guys don't know what the marshmallow test is, it's they did this study, right, where they put a bunch of kids in the room and they put marshmallows on the table, and they said you can have 2 marshmallows right now, or you can wait until we tell you. And they didn't know how long it was going to be, if it was going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But if you can wait, you'll get 3 marshmallows. And a bunch of the kids, they just grab a marshmallow and eat it, right? Well, the other kids, they're like, oh, well, we can wait. And they made them wait 15 minutes, and they give the other kids 3 marshmallows. So then they talked to these kids when they were adults, and they found out the ones that had patience and could wait for things and wait to hit the bigger score did better as adults, had better jobs, had bigger 401ks, and were much wealthier than the kids that originally were very not selfish, but impulsive. So that's where Brad Holmes, I think, is passing the marshmallow test. He is spending the money that he has on his own players and people that he has developed. He wants to keep that core together, because when you have that core, you have that 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that you drafted, that you've cultivated, and you've shown you are going to pay them when it gets to be their time. Well, then the next 10 players that you draft see that, and they play even harder. And then you don't have to have players that you're paying hundreds of millions of dollars to come in and supplement those guys. Your free agents and stuff can be lower class free agents, because your personal players are, your core is better. So we have a better core than we've ever had in the history of the Detroit Lions right now. Our core is better than we have ever had in the history of the Detroit Lions right now. I will say that unequivocally. This is the best core we've ever had. And I think Brad's going to try to keep it that way. He is going to keep drafting the way he's been drafting and keep paying our own. So I do think that eventually he will get things done with Kirby. He will get things done with Hutch. But we have to remember, as fans, there's going to be a big player like a Hutch. There's going to be a player like a JMO. There's going to be someone that eventually we're not going to have enough money to keep them after their original contract. So some of them are going to slip through our fingers. It's like trying to grab a handful of sand. There's a bunch of sand that's going to slip out from your fingers. It's not all going to stay in your hand. So
let's get into 26's capital here. So I saw a statement through the chat. Someone said that we were negative 40 million projected for next year. I don't see that right now. I see that the Lions have 38 million in cap space for next year, which would make them the 26th in the league. They would have the 26th most, which you look at it the other way, it's the 8th or 9th least in the league. Their total cap allocations right now is $291,832,819, which is 4th highest in the league. So they don't have a ton. So I think this projected cap space, I don't think that includes it includes the projected. So what it says here is the Detroit Lions 26 salary cap table, including team cap space, dead cap figures, and complete breakdowns of player cap hits, salaries, and bonuses. So it does not include, at least according to this, 2026's bump in the salary cap, whatever that is going to be. So if they have 38.4 million next year, and they haven't even done any of these extensions yet, any of these bigger extensions, yeah, that's a little worrisome. It's a little worrisome, especially when they don't have near enough players under contract, is what they did this year to start the year. Let me go in and look and see just how many they have.
Man, Goff's got quite the cap hit next year. I'm guessing he's going to have to do some restructuring.
Possibly.
$69.6 million. Whew.
Let's see here.
Some of them aren't too bad. I think you're going to get some restructures in there. You might see a player like Graham Glasgow, this might be his last season because he's going to count 8.4 against the cap next year. Yeah.
All right. So in 20 right now, why is it being dumb? I'll have to come back to this because it's not showing me how many players, and I'm not going to sit here and count them all up. It's not showing me how many players are under contract. It usually does. Even if I go all the way to the bottom, it doesn't show it. Forget it. I'll come back to it later.
Shows 33 of them right now.
For next year?
Yeah.
Which one are you on? Spotrac or Over the Cap?
Spotrac.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, it's showing me 33 contracts for next year. But it's not showing anything for Aiden Hutchinson or JMO right now because they haven't picked up their 5th-year options yet. So
correct. So by the time you add those two in,
yeah,
they're at almost 0.
Yeah.
For cap because Aiden's like 21-ish and JMO's like 15-ish. So that leaves them with like $2 million maybe. So just doing we did that weeks ago where I did the extensions live and I said, look, just by adding these two guys in, you got nothing. Yep. You got nothing for next year. So how did people ever think for 1 minute that we were going to be able to sign a top tier edge rusher or anybody else that wasn't a corner in this free agency period? How did they ever look at this stuff? That's my biggest question. Do they ever look at this stuff to see like what's there? And if they don't, just come on into the show. We'll walk you through it because it's important to get these things right, I think, so you don't have this false sense of hope, if you will.
I'll tell you, as just a fan, I never looked at this stuff before. I always left this to the GM side of things. This was I was a very uninformed fan when it came to money and how it works in the NFL until I came on here with you. And I'm learning so much about the salary cap and how it actually works. And I had no clue. And, to most fans, the salary cap does not exist. It's a myth. It's something that they always can figure a way around because they can cut someone or restructure a contract and they can make money somewhere. But it's just a bunch of finagling. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I think that's what Brad Holmes is trying to avoid. He doesn't want to get into the situation that Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were in, where they kept kicking that can down the road so damn far that eventually they couldn't kick the can anymore. It was too far out in front of them and they had to pay the Reaper. And that was with, 2 and 15 seasons where they were just absolutely atrocious and they couldn't afford to pay anyone. And they were paying for all these players that weren't even on the team anymore.
And see, that was another thing that I started highlighting that stuff. I mean, back when I first started and I was trying to explain the evolution of where I thought this team was going to end up and what it was going to take to get these things done. And, I was doing all this high level forecasting of years out and planning for Aiden, planning for some of the guys that, Brad took early in the draft that ended up working out. And I think that I need to do a better job of creating additional videos and thumbnails for just that stuff, because you could then always go back to it. Like right now, it's kind of hard to go back and check the receipts on certain things without watching hours of content, but it's there. And the people that show up here every single day know it's there. These are all the things that we've been talking about in forecasting for a long time. So let's get right into that side, player contracts and future planning. But before we do me a favor. If you guys haven't checked out Warrior Thread yet, Warrior Thread is going to have some options. Let me put that down real quick. Warrior Thread has some options for you guys. If you want your FTB gear, it's right here. If you're a Packer, there you go. You can get it in green. If you're a Viking, you can get it in purple. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have the Honolulu blue, but if you're a Lion, you can get it in black or you can get it in navy blue. F the Bears, FTB all day. Visit warriorthread.myshop.com. Of course, the link is now posted up here in the chat, but there's all sorts of cool stuff in this this store. Obviously, we're going to continue to build and brand. You're a cancer survivor. Remember, never give up. Stay strong, right? You can get it in multiple colors. It's only $42, man. The line starts $75 for a hoodie. And these hoodies are just as good, if not better, than most NFL gear that you're going to find. T-shirts, you got it. Pink hoodie, go for it. Right? Lots of options for you guys here. Check out warriorthread.myspreadshop.com today. Visit the link, obviously, in the bio. Get your gear on. Okay, next section. Player contracts, future planning. Eric, hit it.
Oh, here, let me get that back up. Come on. Why is my sheet not coming up? There we go. All right. So Holmes confirmed that the Lions are likely to pick up the fifth-year option for Aiden Hutchinson, whose contract discussions may be influenced by recent high-value deals in the league. He remarked, "It is what it is. We had it in that range, kind of already. When we do our future planning and budgeting, but then obviously when it goes up, it just goes up. That's what you've got to prepare for," Holmes said. "I don't know what it will end up being. That's the difficult part about our job, but we work really hard in terms of the prediction forecasting of that market." And with what happened with Myles Garrett and who was the other one that got 40 million?
As far as contracts?
Yeah. Wasn't there another defensive end that just got paid big?
Well, Max Crosby got 35 and a half, and then it was Myles Garrett, and we're still waiting on Trey Hendrickson, which will probably happen after the draft. But then you had, Higgins and Chase. They got those monster deals. I think Chase got over 40 million a year.
Yeah. So he didn't know that was going to happen. He thought maybe 30, I'm guessing. And they got blindsided by this because they did. I really truly believe they wanted to make Hutch the highest paid defensive end. It was time. He was due. It's just where his contract fell and when he was drafted. I'm sure they wanted to make him the highest, and they probably promised him, "Hey, we're going to try to make you the highest paid in the league, so don't worry, we'll take care of you." And then these contracts hit, and they're like, okay. So from what Brad's saying there, to me that reads, it went a little higher than we thought it was going to go because we had planned for it to be a little less. But you have to be prepared for it to be nutty like this, just like the cornerback market with the guy from the Texans getting $30 million a year. No one saw that coming. And he's from the same draft class as Aiden Hutchinson, I believe.
So let me walk through this quote here where he says that obviously that they were kind of planning, their budgeting, they were planning for this for the future, but when it goes up, it goes up. It is what it is, right? And so one of the things that, I was hopeful for is that Aiden would play out this year and that they would get the extension done next year in the offseason, like this time of year. You pick up the fifth, and that sounds like it's what's going to happen, and we'll get to that part in a minute too, but that's exactly what Brad said yesterday. They're going to pick up the fifth for Aiden. And there's a little bit more that he said about Aiden that I want to make clear on. But if they pick up the fifth this year and Aiden is then fully guaranteed this year and next year, he has some security. Why wouldn't you then want to get a deal done next season with the Lions as opposed to playing out your final year at $20 million, whatever it is, 21.7? I think that a deal would get done next year. And part of this conversation, the way that it went down yesterday with Brad, kind of made me feel Kirby's not going to happen this year, potentially. And even though he wants to get it done, or maybe Kirby gets done, but Aiden doesn't. I think it goes either one of those two ways. I don't think they both get done right now. It all depends on what happens through the draft and then throughout the summer. And then, of course, you've got to have money available throughout the season. You have to have 10, 15 million bucks available throughout the season, because if we go through what we just went through again, which we're not expecting, but if you get into the trade deadline and you have to bring in a player or two, if you don't have the funds, you're screwed. So I think that when he's talking about, you know, the number, it is what it is. And that's a difficult part of, you know, your job is, you know, these guys are really working hard. Their financial team is really working hard at forecasting the market so they can prepare. That is exactly why I never expected for one minute that the Lions were going to go out and just spend. Even though they had a boatload of salary cap, they still do. And they're not spending it. There's a reason why.
They can roll it over for next year.
They can roll over a lot of it for next year. So the next part of this was he was regarding Aiden's potential for recovery and how Brad Holmes felt about the recovery so far. He said, quote, "I mean, look, we don't have a crystal ball or anything. We are just going to see where it's at. But I've seen enough movement and mobility on running in this stage that I feel very confident about where he's going to be at," end quote. Nowhere in there did that say, "I'm not worried." Nowhere in there did that say Aiden's getting extended. Nowhere in there did that say they're good to go. Aiden's fully healthy. No. What it said is exactly what it said. I've seen enough movement and mobility on running. Well, we all saw the running video. Hopefully that's gotten better, right? Since that came out a few weeks ago. It was around the combine. It was around, it's combine time. So hopefully that's gotten better, right? Because he was kind of herky-jerky. You know, he was kind of doing this motion, you know, if you will. Kind of the limp when you run or the drop foot when you run. I had drop foot really bad after my back injury for over a year. So the mobility is there. That's what he sees. But he hasn't hit anybody yet. He hasn't anchored, right? He hasn't taken on a 330-pound offensive lineman. So that's the next stage. And just like Brad Holmes says, they don't have a crystal ball. And just by him saying that is telling you, right, through the power of psychology, that he still needs to see something in the future. You get that? That's how I understand psychology. I've gotten a lot of things right so far on Brad Holmes just by picking apart his words. The reason why he mentions crystal ball is because he still needs to see more. You have to be absolutely 1,000% positive before you hand over $160+ million check to Aiden Hutchinson. It's not an indictment on Aiden. It's not saying that we don't like Aiden. It's not saying that we don't want Aiden to be the best football player ever in the NFL. It's just saying that what Brad has done in free agency, what would make you think that he wouldn't do anything different with his own football players? If he's not going to go out and spend big money on somebody, why would he spend big money on his own player if that individual just had a major injury? An executive that I spoke with last week said the same thing. I'd be real leery of extending or rushing to extend something like that. Forget, I don't know the whole quote. I'd be real leery of rushing in 25 or real leery of, re-signing, extending someone due to a major injury. He's got to see more. And I think that it's probably a common denominator throughout the NFL with these executives is they're not going to just be stupid, right? Love Aiden. Love what he does on the football field. Have high hopes for the guy. He did say that Aiden is elite. He did say that there's, probably top 5 elite guys in this entire NFL, which is, again, something that I've kind of echoed is that after, Myles Garrett, and you could probably throw Trey Hendrickson in there, and Max Crosby, like it starts to really thin out for elite guys. You got some good dudes, right? You got some good football players. But the elite, Myles Garrett is the bar. He's the standard for being elite. Brad thinks he's in that conversation. What did you think about this quote?
To me, it says that maybe we're going to hold off just a little bit on Hutch. We're probably going to do a 5th-year option just like we might do with JMO. And I'm going to wait and see, take a wait and see approach. Because like you said before, when forecasting what the edge position is going to be in the future, as of right now, you don't see anyone that's due for this giant edge contract to reset the market. That's what Myles Garrett did. I don't think Trey Hendrickson is going to reset the market. And anyone that's a former first round pick or whatever, none of them are, screaming off up the board that they're, lighting the league on fire. So as of right now, I don't see another big contract coming for one of these edge rushers. So why not hold off another season? You might actually save some money, and the cap's going to go up. You'll have a little bit of relief, and this is a temporary band-aid. So, it's like you got this cut on your arm from a raspberry bush, right? And it got you pretty good. And it's enough to get stitches, or you can just do it yourself with a little super glue and a couple of band-aids. Do you want to go to the hospital and pay for it to get done? Or can you just do it yourself? So I think he might just do it himself and put a couple of band-aids on there and get through it for now. And then later on, if they need to, they'll go see a doctor. So that's kind of the approach I think he's going to end up taking, is doing a 5th-year option on Hutch and take a little bit of a wait and see approach. It has nothing to do with the player as far as performance. It's he has to see it. We have to know, is he going to get over this injury? Is he going to be 100%?
You went as granular as to say a raspberry bush, and those damn things hurt.
Yes, they do.
They hurt, especially when you're going through like a whole patch and you just don't see it coming. So let's flip this up on its head.
Yeah.
Okay. Brad Holmes gets home from the league meetings on whenever. Let's say he gets back on Friday.
Yep.
And on Saturday morning, we hear Aiden Hutchinson resets the market at $40.1 million per year, 4-year deal, $160.5 million, whatever the number is. The Lions now have 6 years of control over Aiden's contract. And then this summer, we hear the next headline that says, Aiden re-injures leg, done for season. And then we hear 6 months after that, Aiden retires medically from football. All of you would be marching down Brush Street saying, fire Brad Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
All of you. Am I right or am I wrong? I think that taking a measured approach and being safe with some things like this is okay. There's no need to rush, right? You have Aiden under control for the next 3 seasons, 4 seasons. You could franchise tag him. Look, there's a reason why these rules exist for the NFL. It's, again, you have to separate your emotion. You have to separate your fandom, your Saturdays and Sundays, and you have to look at the player as an employee, right? You have to look at the player not as a friend, not as an employee. And that's hard to do. If you've never been in that position where you've had employees, you have to separate that relationship. If you go out and hang out with a bar on Friday afternoons with your employees, what do you think's going to happen on Monday when that employee is just kind of, effing off over there in the corner, not doing their job, and you have to go up and say, hey, Joe, dude, it's time to lean or it's time to clean. What are we doing today? Like, pick up a broom, bro. He's going to be like, come on, man. Like, we just had beers on Friday. What is this all about? Thought we were buddies. What do? Can't be friends, man. You can't.
I'll tell you, man. I was a boss at the casino, and I had 61 employees, pit bosses and dealers. And I can't tell you how many times I had to take people that I considered very close friends, because I came up through the ranks. I didn't just become the boss one day. So I was friends with all these people. I bled, the same colors they did. And I can't tell you how many times I had to separate myself from being just one of the guys and take them in the office and tell them, listen, this is the way this is going to go. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to get everyone to do the job the way it needs to be done. Let's all be good apples, because all it takes is one bad apple and it ruins it for everyone. And I had a boss that used to tell me that, man, don't be the bad apple in the bushel. Be on board and everything will go perfect. Because when you have a group of people that all work together, it's amazing. and then you put that one bad apple in there, and it doesn't matter if it's your friend or not, you got to separate, and you have to be able to put yourself in a different spot, because then you're the boss. You're not just the employee. And it's very difficult for some people to be able to do that. And a lot of people cave under the pressure of that. And that was something I always took pride in, that I could do that. Even with my best friend, it didn't matter. If I had to bring him in the office, I don't care if it was my wife or my mom or my grandma. If I had to take him in the office and give him a talking to, that's what was going to happen. It didn't matter, so you have to be able to, as the GM of a team, be able to separate friendship and work.
So I see some people asking what my Panthers pod. I thought they were talking about like the Panthers in the NFL. I'm like, okay, yeah, Michigan Panthers. Yeah, we have Michigan Panthers channel now. We'll be covering things. We'll be doing UFL highlights throughout the week. So we figured it'd just be best. Let's put it all on the channel. So HVAC Dad 85. I'm gonna stick to covering whatever the hell I want to. How about that? How about them apples, right? Don't run backwards to a raspberry bush, buddy. So I'm not going to take people's BS. Like, you can find yourself out of the chat. I don't care if you've been following the channel for a long time. Don't tell me what I'm going to do. Just don't. Let's just not go there. Like, I give everybody a ton of respect. I don't disrespect people, and that's just pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, I love the UFL, man. And one day a week, I might talk a little UFL. But you know what? It's football. I'm not going off talking about Tigers or basketball or anything else. It's football. So, I mean, all football is good football to me. I love the Lions, but man, like this Friday, I'm going to see the Panthers. I'm going to go sit row 2 at a Panther game for $27. How about that?
Yeah. So to answer your question, Lauren Vander Esch, it is at Michigan Panthers football, I believe. I don't know. I have like 4 channels. So like 4. And if there's people that want to run the channel, you're more than welcome. If you're a Panthers fan and you want to go all out, trust me, we'll give you all the goods. We'll tell you everything you need to know. And maybe you already know some things that we don't know. So it's always a good partnership. So regarding Jameson Williams, we'll move on.
Yep.
Jameson Williams is kind of in that same light of the 5th-year option for him. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen from the beginning. It did make 0 sense. It made 0 sense to give this dude a bag. And again, you hear it from the fans' perspective where they say, look, but J-Mo is J-Mo, and J-Mo had a 1,000-yard season, and that's great. And J-Mo can, take the top off of defense. And like I always say, he's one play away from the end zone. I believe all that. Yesterday, it was highlighted by multiple reporters, journalists, analysts, of the like, everywhere, talking about the off-field issues, the Detroit Police internal affairs investigation, the suspensions twice, one for the unknown substance and the other one for gambling. Look, we all make mistakes, right? We move past them. I think that Dan Campbell's been a huge supporter of J-Mo. I think that, Brad has also done the same thing for J-Mo. They've taken this kid in like he's their, second, third, fourth son, whatever. I don't know how many kids they have. So, you get what I'm saying? Like they've enshrined this kid with as much love as they can. And it's been working, right? I think he's been getting better and better. I'm not a J-Mo hater, I'm a J-Mo supporter. I just hate some of the stupid stuff he does. And again, we all make mistakes when we're young. I think the J-Mo's starting to grow. I think he's starting to mature a little bit. But maybe they're just not ready to give this guy a big bag. But I think it goes beyond that. So you can forget the maturity stuff, right? Forget all that. This walks down the same line as these 2 things I know to be true. One, it is very difficult to pay 2 players at the same position top contracts. I don't think that J-Mo is going to garner a top contract. He's not going to get $30 million. I would say that the ceiling for him right now is probably 20. But be that as it may, how can you afford to pay $50 million on your wide receiver room, $50 million for your defensive end room, $40 million for your DB room? No, I'm sorry, $56 million for 3 guys in your DB room, 20 for Kirby, 20 for Branch, 16 for DJ Reed. And then in a couple seasons, if Tyrion Arnold works out, if he's a top dog, he could get $30 million. or more by then. You see where I'm going. 60, 70 million for a quarterback at some point in the future. So that's what I know to be true. It's very difficult. Yeah, you're going to say, but the Bengals did it. Okay, who else are the Bengals playing or paying right now? They're not paying Trey. Who else are they paying? Joe Burrow took an equitable deal, right? And his new deal just extended things down the line for the Bengals to be able to get some other deals done. So they're not paying everybody else. They're not paying a ton of these contracts. They maybe don't have the core people, the core players that they've identified yet. They have a few that they want to keep. But at some point, you're going to lose these guys. You're going to have to. And here's the other second thing that I know to be true. There's way more receivers in the draft every year that can contribute year one than there are defensive ends, than there are defensive tackles, than there are corners. Or quarterbacks even. But there's always more wide receivers that you can turn into the next JMO, right? To a degree, yeah, it's hard to find that speed. It is. You maybe find a guy that has more pure route running, a little bit less speed, but just consistent all the time. And that's all you really need is consistency. You have the other football players on the team that can break loose. So, again, those are the two things that I know to be true. So, here's what he said. He said, number one, about JMO's fifth-year option. It's trending that way, or it's heading that way, quote. Most likely going to be doing that. Look, he was a tremendous football player for us last year. He's still scratching the surface. I do think he's got more in him as well. So I just think it just makes sense for us to do what we can to keep him around. Make sense? I think it makes sense. And I think it makes perfect sense that you do this now and you limp it out for another year. Oh, yeah, Eric, do what you got to do. Hold on here. Whoops. Looks like I hit the wrong one. We do not have breaking news right now. Trey Hendrickson is not going to become a Detroit Lion on April 1st. But anyway, talking about JMO, I think that this makes a ton of sense right now that you extend the guy by giving him a fifth-year option. You're going to keep him in the building. It gives you another year to have conversation. It gives you another year to figure out how much money you're going to have to play with next year. What is it going to cost to get some of the guys that are coming up behind Aiden, like Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, and others? What is it going to take to keep these guys around? And so kicking it down a couple of seasons, you're into 26, 27, 28, and forecasting what it's going to take, it takes doing deals like this. It takes doing deals with JMO where, yeah, we can't pay you right now. And you know what? We might not be able to. And they might take a wide receiver this year in the draft. And so that's what it's telling me. I would put more weight that the Lions are going to take a wide receiver this draft. Put a ton of competition in that room. Doesn't mean that he's going to be JMO number 2. Doesn't mean that he's going to be anywhere near the speed. And it doesn't mean that the Lions don't want to keep him. It's just how. How are they going to be able to keep him? And is JMO going to take that next jump forward in his progression of his career this year? So I think that that's exactly... what we're rolling with. Oh yeah, J Rock. No, we're not related. I don't know who that is. But welcome in this morning to the Rockhound Detroit Lions. Welcome in, Rise and Grind Morning Show. So Derek Luce says they coddled JMO long enough. I get it. J-Rock, just email me, mailbag@rockdown.com. Mailbag@rockdown.com. I'll throw it in the chat. It also should be up on the screen somewhere. Down on the bottom left here. Right? Somewhere down there is the email. Email me. We'll talk. Did TK85 get an extension? No, he's on the squad right now, though. He's on the did he get an extension? That's funny. He's on a vet minimum, I think, from a futures deal from last year. Is Eric back yet? No, not yet. All right, I'm going to keep moving forward. So Kirby Joseph was the next one. Now, if you guys remember several weeks ago, that the Kirby deal to me, look, you don't want to lose the guy. It's not about losing the guy. It's about business, right? So, again, this is a guy that's going to command a pretty penny. The argument or the rub is Brian Branch or Kirby or both. Are you going to be able to keep Kirby? Or are you going to be able to, are you going to be able to keep Branch if you keep Kirby? Well, if the answer is yes, then you're going to get both, which would be great. I mean, that would be an amazing tandem in the back end of your defense for many years to come. I don't know how it gets better than that. But these guys want to get paid too. So Holmes made it clear, but also put a little hesitancy in his voice, at least from what I grabbed, over the Kirby Joseph contract. We know who leads the league in interceptions, 17, right? 17 over the last 3 seasons. Big season last year. Huge year for Kirby. And Holmes did state that he wants to get Kirby on a second contract in Detroit. He stated that multiple times. But then his quote was this. Bottom line, say like it's Kirby. He's a player we want to keep, and we've let that be known. He's a fit for us, for our team. He's a really good player. But in terms of timing, we'll just kind of see where it goes. Huh. So he didn't say that talks were imminent. He didn't say that conversations are happening. He didn't say he's in connection with Kirby's agent. He could have said all those things. He could have, didn't say that they're close. He didn't say that either. He didn't say that they have a framework built out. He didn't say any of that. But what he did say is that we'll just kind of see where it goes when they're talking about the timing. So Kirby's on the last year of his deal. Could you franchise tag Kirby Joseph? You absolutely could, but I don't know how much. Let me just look this up. Looks like Eric's back. Let me get him in. I don't know how much the franchise tag is going to be in 26. It appears that the projected amount right now is about 18.6 million. And I would say that it's going to cost you at least that to lock up Kirby. Now, the nice thing about getting a deal done with Kirby is you can structure the contract out so maybe it's not all hitting you right away. Of course, that's what the Lions are going to do. And what we've seen with some of these contracts lately, very unique in the way that they're putting them together. But that also means that the player has to agree to that, right? That the player and the agent have to agree to that. So when he says that we'll see where it goes in terms of the timing, does that mean it's going to happen right now? No. Does that mean that, that they could end up franchising him next year and make him play through this season on his final deal? Possibly. Do I think that they want to do that? Probably not. And I don't think that Kirby wants to do that. But then the question is Kirby going to threaten to sit out if he doesn't get a new deal? Or will his agent make him do that? Those are all possibilities. And if that happens, I guarantee you he'll be traded. Because Brad has said it before that if we ever have problems with players trying to sit out, he said this before, not an exact quote, that they have the right players in the building. He doesn't expect that type of stuff to happen. Or said another way, they feel like they have the right players in the building, that they wouldn't expect that to happen. But you never know, right? You never know what these agents are going to do and what these players are going to think. Do I think it's a slap in the face if you make him play on his final year? No. I think you signed a contract. It is what it is. Do I think Kirby's deserved of a new contract? I absolutely do. But you're up against this, right? Like it's the vanilla and I know we talk about marshmallows, right? What Eric does. The vanilla and chocolate test for me. It's an old sales thing, right? Do you want chocolate or do you want vanilla? Well, I want both. Sometimes you just can't have both. You got to pick one or the other. And I think that's a case like this. It's like, I want Brian. I want Kirby. I can't have both. You have to make a decision. those are the hardest decisions that Brad is going to have to make. So, Eric, while you're away, I was talking about the Kirby Joseph statement here where Brad said bottom line is, say it's Kirby. He's a player that we want to keep, and we've let that be known. That Holmes also said that he's a fit for us, for our team. He's a really good player, but in terms of the timing, that we'll just kind of see where that goes. What was your thoughts on this yesterday?
Kirby's an enigma. He's a third-round pick, and this guy is in his third year now, last year, playing like a first-round pick. You know, if you go back and redraft, I'm sure Kirby goes a lot higher than he did. This guy was a diamond in the rough that Brad Holmes drafted, and Brad Holmes seems to do this a lot. Whatever you want to call it, overdrafts. So he picks guys and they outperform where they're picked in the draft. And if you ever did a redraft, half the guys that Brad Holmes picks every single year would end up being much, much higher in a redraft. And I think that is what's finally catching up to Brad and the Detroit Lions now. You can only keep so many of these pieces. And he desperately wants to keep Kirby. I think he really wants to keep Kirby, but he's got to weigh the marshmallow test again. Do you just wait this year out and tell him, hey, we're going to franchise tag you next year? Do you get it done right now and save some money in the future? I just don't know the answer to this one. To me, I think they really want to keep him. It's going to take a lot of finesse to get a deal done before the season with Kirby, because you have Aiden Hutchinson and you have JMO and all these other contracts that they make it so complicated because the Lions don't have much to work with because they have paid their own players like Panay and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff and Ali McNeil. Those contracts all start tolling next season. So I'm guessing for next year, we're going to see some players get cut that are or have been major cogs in the wheel for the Detroit Lions. And eventually it's not going to be just the free agent guys. It's going to be draft pick guys that are going to be let go. And we're not going to want to see them go. So maybe Kirby's the first major peg that we lose out on. You know, maybe he's the first one.
Could be. So I'm going to move through these next ones kind of quick so we can get to movie day here for the last half hour.
Sure.
So the next two here that he pointed out was financial discipline. Obviously, Brad Holmes drew this parallel between team budgeting and the personal finance plan, stressing the need for strategic spending to ensure long-term success. He also acknowledged that while fans may desire flashy signings, the team must adhere to disciplined financial approach. Quote, a bill is coming. What you spend this year is going to impact next year, even impacts 2027. So that's the discipline that we have to adhere to. And if I was a fan, as much as I love our fans, I'd be the same way. Like, hey, splash, get guys, spend the money, let's go. But I just want to make sure the fans understand that we are being disciplined in our approach because we are trying to win now and also sustain what we want to do. End quote. Eric, I don't even know how many times I've said all of this. So many times I've been saying this. Almost identical to his quote. It's almost like Brad and I, like we're attached somehow. I don't know. I have the same view that he does without him ever telling me what his view is. Other than every year I listen to what he says. He doesn't say all of this stuff, right? That he just said it yesterday. He doesn't say all of these things. I don't pick up the phone and call Brad Holmes and say, hey, what's the plan this year? You know what I mean? I don't sit in a room with this guy and have conversations with him. Now that I have a credential, I probably could, but I haven't done that yet. The point is, at some point, you just have to understand there's levels to this game. And this is the next level for the Lions. Sustain what you have. And then also we want to make the team better and plan for the future. It's that simple, but it's not simple. How do you, like, he's not here to make the fans happy. That comes, in September when the product on the football field is winning football games. That's when he's hoping to make everybody happy. But his job right now is Detroit Lions. That's it. Sheila Ford Hamp and the ownership and the board. That's it. That's his job. It's not Will Rock's narrative. It's not any other channel's narrative. It's I have to do what I have to do to protect this team, protect this organization, and protect the future of the win and loss column. And hopefully bring in a Lombardi to this city. And if he were to go out and just splash, right, then it would be over before it even got started. You can't run around and just rain Curry threes all day. You just can't. Can't do it. Sometimes you have to just knock down your free throws. You got to take the easy buckets. That's what Brad's doing. He's taking the easy buckets, but he's also making sure that he at least has one or two checks that he can write to kind of refill this pipeline, to make sure that it stays to the level that they've created now, right? To sustain the level that they see going forward to win football games. There's one thing that will always remain true in the NFL. It is a business. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations that don't want to lose money. Not saying that they are losing money, but the only way you're going to make money and make more of it is by putting butts in seats and selling a shitload of popcorn. That's how you make money, because we know popcorn doesn't cost $12 a bucket. It costs about 3 pennies. They're making money. But if they don't have butts in seats to sell a bunch of $12 popcorn, they're making less money. That's not a good financial plan. But that all starts from what Brad does right now. It all starts from the contracts that are in place for the future. And as he, equates this to your personal financial budget, you got bills you got to pay too. Are you just going out and splashing on that Lamborghini tomorrow and not paying your mortgage for the next 3 months? Some people do. That's why they're living in their car and they're car poor. I'd say it's pretty cramped in a Lamborghini though. Can't really stretch out. Quarterback development. So the addition of Kyle Allen was described as a move to foster competition at the quarterback position. I've said that this Kyle Allen move is a move to kind of give Jared Goff his Nate Sudfeld. Now, particularly this competition was in place for Hendon Hooker, who faced some challenges throughout his first couple of seasons. He was injured coming into his first season. He redshirted basically 23. He had some concussion issues last season. A little bit of slow progress for him. And then Brad has mentioned that from the very beginning, that wherever Hendon has been at, it's taken him a little bit to kind of get going. But once he got going, he was fine. So he says this. He says, quote, it's just competition. That's all it is. We like Hendon. We're excited about him. We brought in Teddy Bridgewater last season just because we were gearing up for the playoffs. And Hooker just wasn't ready yet. And and he understands that, but still got high hopes for him. But nobody's going to be given a job either. So if Hendon wants to be the number 2 quarterback, then win the number 2 quarterback job. Now, I also said this about last season, where I said the reason why they brought Hendon back, the reason why they brought Teddy Bridgewater back was because of experience. You're going into a divisional matchup. You're going into the playoffs. That is why you brought the guy back, not only for his leadership, but you could have that third emergency quarterback. But because of his experience, and God forbid something happens to Jared Goff, you weren't going to put Hendon in. You were going to go with the experienced guy. And that's exactly what happened, and now Brad has confirmed it. He's once now again vindicated that I said that's exactly why they brought him in. Makes sense. I don't know why people think it's any different than that. You were going to go with the guy that potentially had the hotter hand. Someone that has been prepared and played in these games and knows what's going to happen. Thankfully, he was only in for a couple of plays, then he got to come out. But it wasn't because Hendon was just a wasted pick. So again, these people driving narratives because Teddy Bridgewater came in for 2 snaps And then you're driving all this bullcrap media saying that Hendon Hooker's a wasted pick. Come on, people. Get real. I mean, I guess that's why we're all different. But I wouldn't drive lies. Maybe they don't understand football. They didn't understand. And again, Brad confirmed it. Is Brad lying? I don't think so. Last is the offensive line. Now, he made a very good statement here on Christian Mahogany. I think he's trying to make sure that Christian understands there's a fire burning. But there was conversation, too, about whether Mahogany was going to play right or left. And Brad did confirm that Mahogany's played a little bit more right. And that's where I think that Mahogany is going to be potentially. But then again, I looked at the left side like, okay, left makes more sense because of Graham Glasgow and what he didn't do last year, which was play well. Put him back at right where he's played well. So we'll see where that goes. But here's the quote. Look, it's a small sample size of the starts that Mahogany played. They were promising. They were encouraging. We do feel like he has starter level ability, but he is still a young player. So we still need to be sure that he has competition. And it's part of, we bring in Awasika back, as he was talking about. We'll bring back and we'll see, we bring back Awasika and we'll still be looking at the possibility of another veteran to add. And you still have the draft. And you just never know when we're going to be able to get one of those guys. So I think he made it pretty clear. The draft is a big part of the plan for the offensive line. And Mahogany still has work to do. So he's not going to settle on the offensive line with inserting Mahogany as an immediate starter. Competition, man. That's what this organization is all about. Eric, wrap us up here on the last few statements about Brad Holmes, starting with financial discipline and then quarterback development and then offensive line with Mahogany.
Yeah, the financial discipline, that's the marshmallow test. And listen, Brad's got it down to a science. He is not going to overspend. He is going to do this the right way. On quarterback development with Hendon Hooker, I'm going to tell you this. We talked off air before this even started, and I was talking about how the media, I've seen it both ways written a story about this exact same quote.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it where this quote was taken as Kyle Allen is there to replace Hendon Hooker, and Hendon Hooker sucks, and that's why they brought back Teddy Bridgewater back, and that Hendon Hooker might lose his job to Kyle Allen, and blah, 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 blah. And then I saw the opposite side of it where they say, yep, hey, Kyle Allen's just there to provide some, extra, competition for Hendon Hooker. And I think that's all it is. And that's all he said. He didn't say that Hendon Hooker sucks or that we need to find someone else or we're going to draft a quarterback this year. He didn't say anything like that. And that's what some of these writers are going with and running with. And I can't stand that. And then the offensive line with Mahogany, I think he said exactly what we've been saying, that Mahogany did great for the limited time he was in. He played one full game and a partial other game. What did he have? 78 snaps, something like that. So it's limited, very limited. He missed the entire preseason, and to come in and play the way he did, man, A+++ for a 6th round pick to come in and do that. Amazing, right? So we do have to see where he's at. We can't just hand him the starting job. He's going to have to earn it over Awasika now that he's back and whoever we draft this year. We might draft an offensive guard. You don't know. It might be in the 2nd or the 3rd round, and he's going to have to compete with that guy. Maybe he's our quality backup now. So we can't just hand Mahogany the starting role just quite yet. Going to have a little patience on that one.
I would agree with all that. Just the other day, it was Under Armour that, or just a little while ago, we spoke about Under Armour, right?
Yes. They're going to be the shoe and glove partner of the NFL.
So if you would like to get your hands on your Rise and Grind Morning Show Under Armour jacket, that's right, Under Armour Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is on warriorthread.myspreadshop.com. You can get your Rise and Grind Morning Show logo apparel there. Under Armour jackets right now. You got a black and white. You also have the navy blue and white that are available on Spreadshirt. Man, there's just so much going on in this time of the year that many people just don't pay attention to. And I think now that you've heard Brad speak, and today we'll hear Dan Campbell. He's got breakfast this morning. I think it started 43 minutes ago with some of the, obviously media members that are there. I want to try to get there next year. I don't even know how to do it, but we'll figure it out.
Let's go. I'll go to Florida.
Yep. I'm going to try to do it next year where I'll just be in Florida this time of year. We'll make it happen. So let's get into the video so you guys can actually hear what the hell Brad said. It's 28 minutes long. I'm going to speed it up 10%. And it'll give you an idea of exactly these conversations, a lot of the quotes that we were talking about. So it'll be movie day for the rest of the day. We'll stop and go and comment as we go as well. And Eric, let me make sure that you're in, and then you should be able to comment whenever you want. Yeah, Eric, you should be in, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Let me get all these down.
I just mute while we're playing the movie part so I can turn it up.
There we go.
I got no sound on Brad.
One sec. Where in the world is it?
Well, while Will is doing that, I have just a little bit of breaking news from the owners meeting.
You got your phone playing or something.
I turned it down. The NFL just passes 2 rule changes, and both teams will get the ball in OT in regular season.
All right, that's a big one that we were hoping that would change.
Yeah. And I have not yet clicked on the rest of it to see what the other part of it is.
What happened to movie day here? I had this all set up.
I don't know. It was playing. It just didn't have any sound.
Right. That's kind of weird. We'll fix it. I just got to redo it.
I gotta try to find something on my computer here.
So what was the second one?
I'm trying to find it here. Getting on X here. So Adam Schefter, the NFL owners have now passed a rule that both teams will be allowed to possess the ball in overtime in the regular season. The original proposal was for a 15-minute overtime that now has been amended to 10 minutes.
Read that one more time.
So the NFL owners now have passed a rule that both teams will be allowed to possess the ball in overtime in the regular season. The original proposal was for a 15-minute overtime that now has been amended to be a 10-minute overtime.
So it's now from 15 to 10, but both teams get to possess the ball.
Yep.
Well, why? Why would they shorten it?
I don't know.
So if both teams get to possess the ball, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the rest of it says, because it sounds like, just on the face of it, it's missing something. Like, do they get to go the whole length of the 10-minute quarter, or is it both teams possess and then first team to score? We'll bring it up tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have all the rest of the details.
Yeah. And then the NFL has expanded replay assist, and that also passed. The one for them to...
So they get one to review on a penalty that has a clear.
they can't call a flag, but let's say that
Well, they can review one.
Yeah. Well, no. This is expanded replay assist. So this is from upstairs, not from a coach. So let's say they call a face mask, but the guy actually touched his shoulder pad. They can come down and say it's not a flag, but they can't. If they missed a face mask, they can't say, oh, there was a face mask or something that was missed.
That makes sense. All right, let's see if we've got audio now. Here we go. We'll obviously highlight more of that stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously, since last time we wrapped up, free agency, the bulk of it's already kind of gotten underway. A lot of people play key roles into this. Obviously, it starts with ownership always, but Dan and the coaching staff, they did a great job. Had a lot of new coaches. They bought him pretty quickly. They got adjusted pretty quickly to the evaluation process and how we do things. And pro personnel department, obviously led by Rob Lohman. But the rest of the pro personnel department, Joe Keller, Justin Licker, Blake Ask, all those guys, I mean, that's basically their Super Bowl, from a process standpoint, to get all the guys lined up for us to evaluate and look at. And obviously Ray Agnew, his voice and his evaluation, his opinions, very critical, plays a large role in our process. And Charlie Atkins, this was his first free agency this year. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, first year. But yeah, I thought he did a great job. That's a hard job to do. The way that our structure is and how it's set up, I mean, you have to be an elite communicator to get those deals done, regardless if it's guys that are already on our team or guys that have been on our team that you've had previously dialogue with or external free agents. It's a very hard job, and I thought that he knocked it out the park with it. So just want to give credit to everybody. Look, I'm more than happy with how free agency went, and I say more than happy because we were able to get guys that we really wanted to get. That's always the case. Like we don't compromise and get a prospect that we're warm on. So happy with that, but more than happy because we actually were able to do more than what I thought we were actually going to be able to do heading into it. I don't know if I was as clear as I could have been at the combine, but I try to kind of let our fans know that we were not going to be big spenders, coming up because of all the things that we have coming up in the future. So I knew we were going to be in that corner market. That corner market was expensive. I mean, just the get in the door entry price was $16 million, and if you would have told me that we would have been able to get a corner for that much with the defensive lineman that we ever get and, getting TP back and all that, I wouldn't have thought we would be able to do that. So just a credit to everybody, especially, Charlie Atkins, Mike Disner, from a football administration standpoint, making sure that financially we were going to be able to do that. But more than happy about taking any questions you guys got.
What do you still have left to do in free agency, if anything? We look at pass rush a little bit, guard. I mean, I know it's not sort of a never-ending process, but what do you?
Okay, so on this part of it, I just want to highlight those damn birds are annoying. Super loud in the background there. But just to highlight this part of it, like we talked about at the very beginning, Brad was extremely happy to even get this much done. He didn't expect to bring this many players back. And I think that speaks volumes again to the fact that they were not going to spend money. They just weren't. So we'll keep rolling here.
In your eyes, you still have left?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still guys out there that we're still staying in contact with. I mean, for right now, the higher dollar guys, we're probably past that point now. We're kind of more in the lower deals, whatever that's third wave, whatever wave it is now. But
okay, so I'm going to pause it there. Talking about the higher dollar guys, there's a reason why with this tells you that the Trey Hendrickson type deals, they're done. It's over. Like, there's none of these bigger deals that the Lions are potentially going to be bringing in. There's really not a whole lot of them left. But think of any big deal out there, probably not going to happen, right? And you heard it from Brad Holmes first, so you don't even have to listen to what I'm telling you.
But we're still monitoring. But what happens is that now you get to a point of that we have a lot of young players on our team that, that we're still excited about. It may not be players that have gotten a line share of snaps, in the regular season last year, but that we've been watching, throughout the year that we're really excited about. So it gets to a point now where it's like, well, you want to add another veteran that you might not be as excited about, but you might be a little bit more excited about, this that, probably spent, a little bit of time on the practice squad, got active a little bit of time. So we're kind of at that point now, but, pretty much all positions are really still on the table, just to kind of add depth and competition across the board.
Ask you about that cornerback.
Especially on the pass rush and
Okay, all positions still on the table. So Brad Holmes did mention that every position is still available for them to take a look at. So he's not done with this roster. Eric, any comments on that side of it?
Just that he's telling us exactly what he's going to do, and he's told us exactly what he's going to do. He's not waffling whatsoever. That's the only thing I can hear from all of this.
Yeah, he's really never waffled from the beginning. All right, we'll keep rolling.
it's like bring the band back together again.
Yep.
Get healthy and keep you guys there. Is that kind of the game plan going in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, look, me and Dan get on the same page early on in the process about who we want to bring back, and also, we get on the same page about who we're interested in adding externally. But look, we won 15 games with those guys, so it wasn't that we just want to bring the guys back. But I also do understand it's not as exciting from a fan standpoint. Look, I always say with free agency, like season ends, right? Super Bowl gets played, Super Bowl's over, and then it's like, okay, what's next? Everybody is starving for, and free agency is the first event on the NFL calendar that's intense player acquisition. So the excitement is just brewing and it's simmering, and it's only really exciting if you get players that you hadn't seen before on your team. And but look, like I tell you guys all the time, we stack our own guys with the rest of the league by position. So look, we might have another player within position ranks, within stacks. We might have an external player that's ranked up here, and then our own guy that's down here. Well, if the money's about the same and it's something that we can actually financially are able to do, we're going to get the guy that we may not know, but we're just going to upgrade our football team. But sometimes our own guy is above a guy that might be a name that is out there. But then the other times that sometimes there's a name that's out there that we just financially just can't do. We lost some of our own guys just because financially we weren't going to be able to do. But I do think that's part of the discipline that's required for where we're at as a football team right now. And that is, yes, the balance of winning now, but also wanting to sustain winning as well. So there's a discipline, like this analogy popped in my head this morning of that, you have financial responsibilities. You have, you have a mortgage, or, your kid's college fund, your 529, you have your insurance you have to pay. You have to pay those things. But that might require you can't take the vacation you really want right now, this summer. And so that's kind of where we are right now, is that we have so many of these young players that have been on rookie deals, and we've been enjoying the impact that they've all been bringing. But now a bill is coming, and what you spend this year, it's going to impact next year. It even impacts 2027. So that's the discipline that we have to adhere to. And I don't really expect the fans, it's not the fans' job to know all the details of the interdisciplinary studies. I don't even know if that's even the right context.
It was
but
pretty good.
But it is. It's like I don't expect them to understand that. Like, and if I was just a fan, as much as I love our fans, I'd be the same way. Like, hey, look, splash, get guys, spend the money, let's go. But I just want to make sure that the fans understand that we're being disciplined in our approach, because we're trying to win now and also sustain what we want to do.
Well, this fan understands all these interdisciplinary studies, I guess. That's a big word, Brad. Here's the cool thing, or at least one of the things that I'm going to take away from this. I don't think Brad's having to worry about what vacation he's taking and what plan he's paying into. I think he's making plenty of money. He made that analogy for the you and I, right? The common fan, the common blue-collar worker, the people that struggle to pay their bills, whatever. He's making that analogy for everybody else to fall in line with the theory that he's trying to do the same things you're doing at home for this football team to make sure that, yeah, even those above $250 million, checkbook that he has to balance, it's no different to equate that using his analogy to paying your mortgage and your 529 or your utilities or whatever, right? It's no different than that. You're just plugging and pulling different things into the checkbook than he is. He's putting names and football players' numbers into a checkbook where you're putting in Consumers Energy or Detroit Energy, Detroit Gas, whatever it is, right? It's different. So I'm glad that he made that analogy. I'm glad that he kind of drove it home, and he also threw it back to the fan to say, listen, I'd be the same way as you too, and that's okay. But there's a difference between obviously being a fan and becoming a general manager. That's why he's in the job that, position that he's in. Eric, what did you think about that statement?
I love it. And he's telling you like it is. And the thing I like about this whole video is that he's sitting in a garden in a very intimate spot. You can hear the birds behind him. He doesn't even have a chair. He's just sitting on a cement bench with no back. And all the guys are standing around him. So if you see the picture in the newspaper, like the Detroit Free Press, you'll see there's 20 or 30 press people standing around him. And it's just intimate. He's not standing at a podium. He's not, up in front of all of the media. He's just in front of the Detroit media, and they're asking him a bunch of questions. So I like it. It was very personable and personal. It wasn't a cold, calculated little talk, and he didn't have anything prepared. He just took whatever question came at him and told the truth. He's transparent. He always does this. He never tells you one thing and does something else. He always tells you what he's going to do.
Yeah, that hasn't wavered. We'll keep rolling here.
I know it's a long-winded answer, but I hope that makes sense.
With that in mind, what's your definition of a successful offseason going forward with where this franchise is at?
What would define a successful offseason? I think staying the course of what we've done so far. Again, like I said, more than happy that what we were able to do is, look, we love DJ Reed. I mean, that was, you talking about a guy that literally just fit who we are like a glove. Very gritty and tenacious. He's scheme diverse. I really was impressed with his man-to-man coverage snaps. He's feisty. He'll tackle. He'll support on the edge. So he fits us. But then when you follow up like trying to replenish the defensive line, and let's just call it what it is. I mean, we're kind of in the position on the D-line standpoint because of injuries. When healthy, we have a lot of good defensive linemen, but Mac might take a little while. I think feel good about Hutch, and that's the other thing. Look, I know everybody's craving about an edge rusher, but I mean, we have one of, in our opinion, one of the elite guys, and I don't look how many elite edge rushers are in the NFL. I mean, 4 or 5. Would you think one of our guys, one of them? Well, if it's 4 or 5 elite edge rushers in the league, right? How many teams are in the league? 32, right?
Eric, you just mentioned we got a little bit of breaking news right now from Adam Schefter. I can try to get it pulled up here, but let's just walk through real quick what you're seeing from Adam Schefter on the league meetings right now. Eric?
Oh, you wanted me to do it?
Yeah, while I get it pulled up.
Oh, okay. So Adam Schefter just reported that Detroit's proposal to eliminate an automatic first down as a penalty imposed for defensive holding and illegal contact did not pass, despite the Lions' pleas. And the Lions have led the league in these type of penalties. And they were just trying to get it to be a 5 or 10 yard penalty instead of an automatic first down. But the proposal failed. Unfortunately for the Lions, we're just going to have to be less handy, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to pull it up here. All right, here we go. Get this thing in here. All right, there it is. So Adam Schefter first reporting here that the Detroit Lions attempt to get this penalty resolved. Like this one, I thought made some sense. Obviously, we didn't think it was going to pass, but I mean, this is just another way for the Lions to have to get better this offseason, right? They got to get these guys some oven mitts, but I don't think that's the reason why the Lions proposed this. I think that when you look at this penalty on the face of it, it does not make any sense. It really doesn't. How is it that holding or, an illegal contact is an automatic first down when last year you saw the Lions did not get the benefit of that penalty on multiple non-calls? So it's either has to go both ways or you have to eliminate the automatic first down. I don't think it makes any sense, especially when you look at the offensive side of the football and how their holding calls do not add up as well. Like they don't get an automatic first down. So NFL owners also have approved the proposals to expand the league's replay assist, like Eric reported earlier. And then all NFL owners also have now passed a rule that both teams will be allowed to possess the ball in overtime in the regular season. So far, some things are getting passed, but the things that we expected not to happen are not happening.
And the replay assist only affects flags that were called on the field.
Correct. All right.
All right, so that's 64. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, so because we have at least one of them, you got to make sure that you're kind of keeping that in context as well. So, unfortunately, he got hurt last year, and I know how it goes. Psychologically, you think that guy gets hurt, guy gets a big-time injury, he's not on the team anymore. He wasn't there at the end. He's not on the team anymore. No, Hutch will be. We feel great about where he's at in his process, so he's going to help in the pass rush. And, to be able to get Levi back, he was rolling with his pressures, and hopefully he can get home even more. So that's going to help out a lot more. Hopefully, with bringing Davenport back, hopefully his injury luck is on the right side of things. That frees up Josh Paschal, to be able to do a lot more from a pass rush standpoint, really more interior-wise than outside. We just had to use Paschal as an edge rusher because of circumstances with injuries and all of that. So we feel good where we're at to be able to get Lopez, to fill. He's more of a first and second down run defender, but to be able to have him back and still got a reader. So we feel pretty good. We're getting kind of heavy on the defensive line. Not saying that any position will be ignored, but so far I feel like we've had success, and we're going to continue to fill depth because I think, as you guys saw last year, how important that part is.
Okay, so for this side, for this part of the conversation here, there's one thing that I had mentioned with Paschal, which I think that he is the right defensive end to start the year off. Now, based on what Brad just said, it sounds like they're going to try to rotate Paschal back to the inside, which maybe you're going to see Levi and Paschal be more of that rotational defensive tackle to start the season. And you're going to have Reeder and Lopez probably rotating a little bit. You might see all four of them rotating in and out, different sort of packages. But this will be interesting now. If they're considering Davenport the starting defensive end, oh my, this fan base is going to melt. That's more of the reason why I'm expecting an early pick on a defensive end in this year's draft.
More follow-up about Hutch is, how did you have a young guy going through an injury like that, how did the organization continue to empower him as far as to make sure he's in the right mental state and just the confidence that you guys got moving forward that he can continue that play?
Yeah, just making sure that, me and Dan make sure that he's known that, look, you're not off on an island, be in the facility, what you wanted to do, and, be in the training, be in the meetings, come out to practice if you can. I mean, you're still a key cog of this operation, and just checking in on him, seeing him in the training room, seeing how he is, getting all the weekly updates. So I don't think hopefully he never felt like he was separated from the team, because when you get a major injury and you're out there rehabbing, as hard as he works and as much as he's doing extra on his own when nobody's watching, I think it's, from a human standpoint, it's easy to feel that way, but just not only with Hutch, but with all of our players that are all dealing with injury. That's kind of how we want to approach it.
You're not worried about him coming back? I mean, the leg, it's a broken bone, so it's not,
I mean, look, we don't have a crystal ball on anything. We're just going to see where it's at, but I've seen enough movement and mobility in running at this stage that I feel very confident where he's going to be at.
And touched on this at the end of the season about Mahogany being ready if you need.
Okay, this one to me is important. Let me rewind this if I can.
But just not only with Hutch, but with all of our players
Listen
that
to the
are all
question.
dealing with injury. That's kind of how we want to
You're
approach
not worried
it.
about him coming back. I mean, the leg, it's a broken bone, so it's not, I guess.
I mean, look, we don't have a crystal ball on anything. We're just going to see where it's at. But I've seen enough movement and mobility in running at this stage that I feel very confident where he's going to be at.
And touched on this at the end of the season about.
Brad Holmes is asked the question, does he have any worry about the broken bone? And I think it was the healing or something to that effect. It's kind of hard to hear the question, but the way that Brad Holmes answered it is he's had enough, watching Aiden in the mobility, from the mobility standpoint, a little bit of the running that he's been able to do. Obviously, he hasn't put pads on, and or at least that we know of, and gone head on head with somebody. So for right now, he feels that he has enough mobility, but I think it's that first statement. We don't have a crystal ball. That tells me that there might be some shred of doubt still left, or maybe it's not so much doubt as it is part of the process, part of the rehab process, in the process of getting back onto the football field and becoming the same player you used to be. I think it's a good statement by Brad Holmes that I don't have all the answers just yet. I'm confident in what I've seen. We're hoping we're going to see, obviously Aiden get back to where he is, but we don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And that's what I'm going to take from that, is that he doesn't know everything yet. And I'll flip it on its head on the other side. This could also be I'm not telling my opponents crap. I'm not saying anything about Aiden right now. So you can take it either way. He's going to play a little bit coy, or is he giving us, the real and the raw Brad Holmes, that he's just saying, I don't have a crystal ball. You can look at it from either direction. I'm gonna go with the first statement there, that he just doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. Eric, what did you think?
Well, May 1st is when he's going to have to make a decision. Until then, he doesn't have to do squat. He's got the draft coming up in 3 weeks. So he doesn't have to make a decision until May 1st, when you have to put the 5th-year option on these guys. So Hutch and JMO, I doubt we hear anything before May 1st. And I'm guessing all we're going to hear on May 1st is that both of them are getting the 5th-year option. And I'm guessing you won't hear about a contract until mid-May, early June, sometime like that, because they're going to want to get through OTAs, and they're going to want to see what Hutch has got. They're going to want to see, is he 50%? Is he 75%? Is he 90%? Is he 100% ready to go? And I'm sure if he comes into OTAs and he looks like the Hutch of old, I'm sure they'll get a deal done sooner than later.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Hold on here. I just got a message from somebody asking if I think that if Z comes back to Detroit, I'll get back to this guy in a moment. So yeah, as far as this whole thing goes, I'm right there with you, man. We need to see everything. OTAs is a minimum of seeing some action for Aiden. If you guys thought that he was going to be able to make the Super Bowl, like I said, that was a 12-week mark or whatever. He's going to be 6 months in. He should be fully healed, 1,000% healed. If this was a 12-week injury, and now you're another 12, 14, 16 weeks past that, then there should be nothing wrong with you, right? Shouldn't be. So OTAs for me is the benchmark at a minimum to at least get some good news as to where Hutch is in his rehab. And then if we get good news, then maybe we'll hear the rest of the news. Who knows?
I like what Gina put. Hutch will grow a new leg if he had to.
Yeah, I'm sure he would if he could.
Mahogany being ready if you need him. I imagine Zeitler's one of those guys he has
Yeah.
looked into and just couldn't pay the price tag. So,
Yep.
I guess, can you reemphasize your confidence in Mahogany? And do you envision him right side, left side? Is that something that still needs to be sorted out?
Yeah, he did most of his college on the right side. I think he can do both. He's done both early on before he had when he got sick or whatever with the mono deal. But we had him doing both in OTAs. But he can play both. But look, he's still it's a small sample size of the starts that he played. They were promising, they were encouraging. We do feel like he has starter level ability, but he still is a young player, so we still need to make sure that he has competition. And it's part of we bring Yodi back, and we'll still be looking at maybe possible another veteran to add, and then you still have the draft, and look, I'm not saying it's always going to be in the 6th round where we got Mahogany, but you just never know when we're going to be able to get one of those guys.
There was some big money being spent on the defensive line too, so I'm just curious how big of a win you view that Levi deal.
Oh man, look, if you were to tell me that we were going to get that done, back when we first were trying to get Levi extended, back in the fall, I would have been doing a backflip, and I literally almost was doing a backflip because, like I said, I did not think that we were going to be able to get a player of his caliber back, along with how expensive that corner market got. And I knew that we had to be in that corner market. That's not anything against Rakestraw. We're still excited about Rakestraw, but unfortunately he had injuries, and he wasn't healthy enough to provide us a little bit more clarity in terms of where he was going to be. So I didn't think it was going to be rational for us to depend on it. But I know how Rakestraw's wired, and this is going to fuel him to be ready and compete. So we're still excited.
All right, more breaking news from Adam Schefter. The annual league meetings obviously kicking off down in Palm Beach, Florida. NFL kickoff rule proposal was separated into 2 votes today. One that passed, one that was tabled. Number 1, the football now moves to the 35 after a touchback. That passed. Number 2, it was a no vote at this time on the onside kick modification. It will be picked back up at the May meetings. So, Eric, if I remember correctly, the modification to the onside kick was being able to do an onside kick whenever they wanted.
Yeah.
And that didn't pass.
Yeah, they're trying to figure something out. And what the UFL does is they do a 4th and 18 play from their own.
It's 4th and 12. 4th and 12.
I think it's 4th and 18.
I saw the 4th and 12 this weekend. Is it supposed to be 18? Because I only saw the 4 and 12.
Oh, I thought it was 18 for some reason. It's a really hard play, and they did it this weekend, and it's from like your own 30-yard line. And so if you fail, you pretty much set them up in their own field goal range, on the wrong side of the 50. And it's a risky play, but when you are in desperate need in a game to keep going, why not put it on your offense? Why have to have it be on special teams? Why does it need to be an onside kick? So that has super low percentage. And yes, even a 4th and 12 has a low percentage, but I would rather have my faith in Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, and JMO to get a 4th and 20 rather than trying to do an onside kick. So maybe that's something that they're mulling over, trying to get something that's kind of equal in level of hardness as a play. Because an onside kick, what is it, like 3% of them historically have been made? And
I have no idea the stats on that, but when I looked up the UFL rule change this February, there was a 4th and 15 from the 25, and then now it's a 4th and 12 from the 28. I think both are in play, but I think the caveat here is it's the kicking team. It's not your offense. That's huge. Like, your kicking team. So you better have a really damn good kicking team that someone has an arm.
Their kicking team has to do
That's what it says. It says the UFL will use a shorter 4th down play for the kicking team. In lieu of the 4th and 15 from the 25, the kicking team will be able to attempt a 4th and 12 play from the 28. So I thought it was the offense too. I guess I didn't pay attention to the one that I watched this weekend. It's kind of funny.
They had their quarterback out there.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because they almost got it. The wide receiver dropped the ball. Otherwise, they would have had it. Or no, he did catch the ball. He was about a half yard short. That's what it was.
Oh, I thought it was a pick. I thought they picked it.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, I think he picked it.
Well, it was different games. I'm thinking of a different game because there were 4 games this weekend.
All right, we'll get into Brad here. We're about halfway done. I'll probably just let it flow for a little bit.
We're excited to get a guy like Maddox, a veteran that's got versatility, and he's his injuries, and he wasn't healthy enough to provide us a little bit more clarity in terms of where he was going to be. So I didn't think it was going to be rational for us to depend on it. But I know how Rakeshaw's wired, and this is going to fuel him to be ready and compete. So we're still excited about him, but we're just adding depth. We're excited to get a guy like Maddox, a veteran that's got versatility. He can compete. Obviously, he can play nickel, but he's got some safety versatility as well that we're excited about, and he can play on special teams as well. So we're just going to continue to add to that secondary. We got Rockhound, another veteran. That's he fits in terms of he can play man to man. He can press up. So we're going to continue to add to the secondary. But we're really excited about our depth and what we're able to acquire on the D line.
I'm sure you expected that defensive end money to jump like it did, but did you expect it to jump as high as it did? And what does that mean for your future plan?
In terms of like what the price tag is going to be, look, it is what it is. I mean, we had it in that range kind of already, when we do our future planning and budgeting. But then obviously when it goes up, it just goes up, and that's just what you got to prepare for. I don't know what it'll end up being. That's the difficult part about our job, but we work really hard in terms of the prediction and forecasting of that market. But that he's just one of many that we've had to budget, and like I said, the mortgage and the kids' college fund and all that. He's one of many that we had to put to a side, and then the budget that we were able to spend this year that kind of just shrunk it a little bit more, but still ecstatic with what we're being able to do.
Brett, with 73 players on the roster currently, does that affect how maybe you plan for the draft and for undrafted guys, how many you might draft, or will you trade down to get more picks but you don't have enough room? How does that all affect?
Yeah, that's just a really good question. Look, we're going to operate in the draft just like how we normally operate, and we're going to prepare. We've done a lot of work already, and we're just going to go by the feel of how how the board and the picks are shaping up. I think if you go back to last year's draft, I think on day three, I thought we were just going to just stay pat and just kind of see it, but and just kind of woke up, feeling in a different mind of just want to be a little bit more aggressive. Didn't have a 4th round pick. Didn't think that we're going to be able to trade into the 4th round twice to get players that really, really liked. So I might wake up feeling that way, or we might, stay pat, or it's looking like it's a little bit more rational to trade back and get more picks.
Would that mean that you would make room on the existing roster if you had to? Like if there was opportunities you couldn't pass up, would you maybe have to let go of a guy or two that you haven't seen yet?
That could happen. That could happen, and that's part of it. Look, you want to do as much before the draft to make you feel cozy enough to be in a position to not have to reach for need or anything like that. But that is part of it. Is look, you might trade up and sacrifice a lot of picks, and you don't have a lot of the picks that you originally had, and it's like, oh, it works out great. Or I don't know how many guys that we really wanted after the draft that you're going to be able to get. So, but that's part of the risk, and I always say risk is what's left after you think you thought of everything, and that unfortunately could happen.
You said with NS.
A couple times.
Go ahead.
How difficult it was to acquire Zadarius Smith. So what went into the decision to part ways with him? And it's one of the guys you've been in contact with.
Yeah, look, it was an amicable, decision. We couldn't afford it. You know, it's bottom line. You know, that was my communication with him, and he understood that. But again, that's an expensive position, and like I told you guys at the combine, it's not being ignored. Like everybody's asking for one defensive end. Well, no, we love to get 3 or 4. So it's something that's not being ignored, but you know, we just weren't in a position to really keep him at his salary. Because look, he played some good snaps for us, and you know, he made plays for us when we acquired him. So we would have loved to have been able to keep him, but we just weren't able to. But we've been you know, keeping in touch with his agent, and he understands that process. So we'll just see how it goes.
You said with Ennis, you couldn't see enough to bank on,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it kind of a similar situation with Roy Lopez and Broderick Martin? Because it seems you're maybe a little heavy on nose tackle. Where does Broderick still fit in the picture for you?
Yeah, you know, hey, Broderick, look, he's got to be consistent. You know, Broderick has. We knew when obviously you guys all know I was very clear and transparent that, you know, he was more in the developmental project bucket when we took him. But, you know, now it's time for him not to just, because he brought flashes in the preseason. When he came from his injury, he brought flashes, but, you know, he had some low points as well. So we need to see more of the consistency of the flashes, and he just needs to be a consistent player, and he knows that. You know, we've had transparent conversations, and so he knows that he needs to be a consistent player. He's got all the ability, he's got all the physical tools to be a consistent player. But so you know, we'll just see. Hopefully he does, you know, come around where he is a consistent player. But and I think he understands that of the year that he's heading into.
5 more minutes, guys.
Sign a quarterback, obviously. What, if anything, does that mean for Hendon Hooker's future? People right into our
I mean, look, it's competition. That's all it is. I mean, look, we like Hendon, excited about him. I've always said about Hendon, you know, kind of a lot of steps on his journey coming out of high school, and, you know, at Virginia Tech or Tennessee, like, it wasn't immediately he was the guy. So, you know, he had the injury that first year. Then last year, that was the first year that he kind of was able to do a full year, you know, training camp in during the season. But and then we brought Teddy Bridgewater in just because we're gearing up for the playoffs and postseason. He just wasn't ready yet, you know, and he understood that, but still got high hopes for him. But nobody's going to be given a job either. So if Hendon wants to be the number 2 quarterback, then win the number 2 quarterback job.
Have you made a 5th-year option decision with Jameson yet? I know you got a month still to kind of work through that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's heading that way. That we're, you know, most likely going to be doing that. Look, he was a tremendous player for us last year. He's still scratching the surface. I do think he's got more in him as well. So I just think it just makes sense for us to do what we can to keep him around.
I know you've been good about rewarding your guys who you brought in, you know, extensions and stuff like that. Is it any like, I'm gonna say, like, pressure or anything? But
Okay, so the last few statements, he was talking about Broderick Martin having to step up, be the guy that they know that he is. Last year showed flashes. Obviously, the thing that I think that Brad didn't mention, I don't think he really failed to mention this, was the injury, obviously, that Broderick Martin had at the end of the preseason. That kind of set him out for the rest of the season. He really never had an opportunity. He got in a couple of games. I think it was like 40 snaps last year. But Broderick really never came back last season. So this is the 3rd season. This is when you expect to have some of those projects work out. To go back even a couple layers, you know, Brad has also talked about having these late round draft picks that, you know, some days you're just going to sit back and do nothing. You're just going to see it as it comes. And then some days you may wake up and you're like, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm going to go after this guy. And I think that's what he did with Broderick. Is he recognized there wasn't a whole lot left in that draft. He had decided to package and move forward because there wasn't a whole lot that needed to be added to that team. So is Broderick a failed pick at this point? No, he's depth. He's a guy that you're hoping can turn into a good rotational piece. 3rd round draft picks don't always make a team. 3rd round draft picks don't always play, and 3rd round draft picks start less than 15% of the time. So for anyone else saying anything other than that, just go look at the facts, because the facts will tell you that. And you can search all of that stuff up on Google and find factual information about statistical analysis of each pick and where they start and how much they play. What was your takeaways there, the last few subjects of the conversation?
Well, we're spoiled. as Lions fans, we got one of the best GMs in the world, and he drafts really, really well, especially in some of the late rounds. So when he gets one that isn't maybe the perfect, and it's somebody that has to mature for a couple of seasons, people don't pass the marshmallow test. Give him some time. Broderick Martin, I think he's had the time now. Same with Hendon Hooker. And I think what Brad was saying during this thing is it's time to put up or shut up. We drafted you guys as projects. Project time is over. Now it's time to perform. We've given you the time. We've cultivated you guys. It's time to perform. And I wish that one of the reporters would have asked him about Manu. Is Manu ready? Because he could be the secret weapon if he is ready to go this year, even as just a rotational piece or as a backup. God, that would help the Lions so much. And what I'm taking from all this, from what he's been saying, he really wanted Za'Darius to come back, and I think he's going to come back. That if you had to add, if you had to like put it on a scale of 1 to 100, whether you think he's going to come back or not come back, I'd put it at 79%. I'm pretty sure that he's going to come back. And other than that, I think he was just saying that these other players, it's time to put up or shut up. It's time to show us why we drafted you guys.
Who were you saying that there was like a 75% chance of coming back, or your thought was?
I'm going to say 79% that Za'Darius makes his way back on this team.
79%.
Yeah.
Not 99% like his number?
No, I'm not there yet. I got to
79% like John Kaminsky, huh?
You got to see what we do with the draft and see where the money's at after OTAs and stuff. Because Za'Darius, he's a vet. He doesn't need to be here for OTAs. He doesn't need to be here until training camp, or even halfway through training camp. We'll figure something out. I'm sure they have like you said before, I'm sure they have some kind of a handshake deal that, hey man, wink, wink, we really want you back. So I think it's about 79%, unless some other team comes with a big offer for him. I think he's going to end up back with the Lions. I think he's got some unfinished business that he wants to take care of, especially since he went and bought that number 99 ring that said Super Bowl on it and had all them diamonds. So, he thought he was going, he thought 1,000,000% he was going to the Super Bowl last year.
Well, maybe he comes back. We'll see. It's just good. Excuse me. It's good to see that Za'Darius obviously is still in contact with via Brad and the agent. It's obviously a situation, like I explained yesterday, where, from my opinion, they know what the package is. They know what the dollars are. They know what it's going to take to get Z in house right now. And maybe his agent really wasn't to concede on some of those, contract concessions, right? As far as, look, we can only pay you X, Y, and Z right now. And they'll probably wait and see what happens, which, a vet of his age, like I said the other day, doesn't need to be in camp, doesn't need to be here right now. He can rest. He can pick up a team, at the trade deadline, or he can pick up on a team halfway through the season when, they lose some players and they're still a contender. Or he could just wait for the Lions to be ready. You never know. By the way, man, I got the yawns. Hold on. Kind of sucks when you've been up since 5 a.m. I'm usually eating by now, it seems like. So the quote that he made, love the quote. It's I don't know if it's from the same book that I read, but Carl Richards, that risk is what's left when you've thought of everything else. That's a Carl Richards quote from a book. I can't remember the book right off the top of my head. Might have been Behavior something, a behavior book that I read many, it had to be 2 years ago at least. But anyway, good quote, Carl Richards. Obviously, plenty of information you can go find on him. Let's finish this up.
You can extend some of these guys, or is that just when you guys feel like it's the time to do it?
Yeah, I think everything is case by case. Whether it's with the agent and the communication, or really if it's from a financial standpoint, I think every player would love to get it done sooner rather than later. But you know, everything is kind of organic and case by case. We don't intentionally not do things, you know, at one point versus the other. But you know, bottom line is, you know, say like it's Kirby, he's a player that we want to keep, and you know, we've let that be known. He's a fit for us, for our team. He's a really good player. But in terms of the timing, you know, we'll just kind of see where it goes. But he also goes in the bucket of being disciplined with finances, where, again, I'll go back to the mortgage and the kids' college fund. You know, you gotta budget for that.
Same topic, but just to tie those two questions in. Jameson, because he had the suspensions,
yeah,
is he at that level that you're willing to, you know, do an extension with him? Do you have more to prove? How does he fit into that long term?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're still taking it, you know, as it goes. Look, you know, his 5th-year option is coming. You know, it's looking likely that we'll go ahead and just pick that up. But you know, in terms of extension, again, there's a lot of extensions that are hopefully coming, but you know, it's just one that you just don't know what's going to happen from a financial standpoint, because a wide receiver, it's expensive. It's very expensive. So look, these are good problems. These are good problems to have. But I just want to make sure that, more so, that our fans, I don't want our fans to think that we're just you know, not making the splashy move because, you know, we don't want to do that. It's just we're just being disciplined and make sure that we were able to sustain winning, but also win now.
Vacation in the plans next year.
Huh?
Vacation in the plans next year.
I'm not sure. I think there's no vacation next year for sure. Look again, the Bills coming. You know, the Bills coming, and all these guys, they're really good players. Like I told you at the combine, yeah, it's, you know, you could say it's been 5 first-round picks, but those 2 twos that we had in 23, you know, that we had graded as first-rounders, those guys have played up to the level that we thought. So you could arguably say it's 7, you know, and, you know, you want to keep them all. You know, we'll try to, but we might not be able to keep them all. So we're just going to try to do the best we can.
Your last 2, Stoney and Jeremy?
Yeah, and we do have a timeline that we've kind of came together and thought about. You know, nothing's guaranteed.
All right, more breaking news at the NFL owners meetings. The tush push has now been tabled. Conversations are tabled until later, so no decision about the future is been completed here at this league meeting. So what else does he say? That was on touchback stuff. So tush push. Well, it's still happening. Eric, what do you think about this one here? Let me get you in.
Yeah, I like the fact that it was such a point of contention that they're putting it off for now. So that means the tush push isn't going anywhere. They just couldn't get enough people to vote against it. And it's going to take 8 of the owners to vote against it. And right now it looks like they just don't have enough. So they're tabling it while they try to talk so Green Bay can talk to these other owners and try to get 1 or 2 of them to swing their way. That's what it sounds like to me. But I guess it was a hot topic. This was the one that was the point of contention for all the owners this weekend.
It's funny, man. It's like the NFL board and the NFL ownership it's like their own microcosm of politics.
Yeah, it's
in our
like
country, you know,
trying to pass a bill for a new bridge or something.
So tush push, I mean, I think the fact that they tabled it at least says that they weren't willing to vote it down. That means that there's probably more teams in favor than not, and they must have had an overwhelming amount without majority to be in favor of that. Let's just say, you know, 24 out of 32 ownerships, they have to vote yes. What if they had 20 and they're only 4 away? I think that is definitely enough for consideration to say, hey, let's talk about it later.
It had to be somewhere close to the 24.
You would think anyway.
Yeah, so they're probably just going to let cooler heads prevail. Let's just take a month off. We'll get back in May. We'll talk about it again. So same thing with the onside kick. They couldn't come to a consensus. So let cooler heads prevail. Come back in a month, and we'll figure out what's going to happen in May.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to Brad.
100%, but we have talked about how we would, in an ideal world, how we like to handle and approach and attack each one. So we'll keep that in house right now, but we have thought about that timeline.
We talked a lot about the coaching changes that you guys have to go through. It's kind of natural part of being a good team. Same kind of things have been going on with the front office.
Yeah.
Probably lost 4 or 5 guys in the last 3 years alone. Can you just talk about the challenge, that part of the challenge?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it is something that we do anticipate. Me and Dan are very conscious about, look, when you have success, guys are going to want to poach our guys. It's more with the coaches, but yeah, it's happening in the front office as well. And I'm happy for all those guys, but that's just part of, always having some kind of succession plan in place, especially when you start to identify the guys that are truly kind of rising the ranks, and they're like, man, this is a good, he's going to be a star, and it's hard to keep the stars. So it's my job, it's Dan's job to always have a succession plan in place. It's some immediate pain, but the worst thing you can do is not have a succession plan in place and lose patience and start making irrational decisions. So I think we do a good job of planning and make sure we have a succession plan. I'm happy for Mike Martin. I think that's a really just my brief conversations I had with Coach Freeman. I mean, it sounds like a great opportunity. I did not really know the whole landscape of that college GM job, and it seems pretty awesome. So I understood it was an opportunity that would have been hard to turn down, but we'll just keep moving forward. We'll miss him. He was a good evaluator. He brought a lot of great ideas to our process, but scouting advancement, it's a whole department for us, so that department's not going anywhere.
Do you have an example of one of those rising stars within the organization that maybe we don't know too much about?
I'm going to keep it under wraps. It's a good try, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
We're trying to keep the ones we have, all right? Thanks, Jeremy.
All right, there you have it. That was Brad Holmes' conversation yesterday with the media members, media availability. A lot of good stuff. I'm glad at the end that he was willing to keep all that stuff close to the vest, right? Yesterday, I had put out my top 15 edge rushers that I've been working on, and I'm going to release them 5 at a time. So I did 5 yesterday, and as you can tell on the Detroit Football Journal, that these 5, just a ton of information in here that I was able to put together. I gave you guys some links of some things to further, your own analysis. I'll drop it in the chat. I did make it free. It starts off obviously with our paid members, and then I will make it free, within the next 12 or 24 hours or something like that. Eventually we'll gain more support. I've got to be able to drop, articles every day. But the goal right now is to get 5 out. I'll get the next 5 out this week, and then the last 5 out by the weekend. I've already done the majority of the work, but kind of just reshaping some of this. Last thing I'm going to point out on this is All 22 Films put out a video last night, had conversations with him yesterday, and he has some very similar, we didn't talk about our top 15 or top 10. He has some that are very similar. Now, he goes really deep. He also has a Patreon now where you can get access to all of his cut-ups and things that he's doing. I think he's doing less of that now on YouTube because YouTube is a pain in the butt. So I think that he's now transferred a lot of his membership to Patreon. So check him out on Patreon if you want to get more information there. But good stuff by him. I think you'll see some similarity in what we believe about Mike Green and James Pierce being 3-4 outside linebackers. It's just, I honestly feel that Josiah Stewart's in the same boat. I think that Josiah Stewart's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker at this point. I think that guys like Jack Sawyer should be a better inside backer in this league. But we'll see what happens. Time will tell. Draft's 28 days away, 26 days away.
Yep.
And rookie mini camp and OTAs will be beyond that. Training camp will tell us where these guys are going to line up. So good stuff. Final 30 to you.
Well, I love what Brad Holmes had to say today. Apparently Dan Campbell had a bunch to say today. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And I've started doing something. So I've done 2 mock drafts now. And in my second mock draft, round 1, number 28, no trades, I picked edge Nick Scorton, and I got a A- grade on my 7-round draft.
That was no trades? No trades?
No trades. And I ended up taking an edge, a linebacker, a guard, a wide receiver, a defensive interior lineman, a tight end, and a cornerback. So I didn't double up on anything. I took 7 players, and I ended up getting a tight end from Iowa.
Who's the tight end from Iowa?
In the 7th round, Luke Lachey from Iowa, and I got a B- for that one in the 7th round.
Interesting. Well, I'm curious in how you set up your draft, though.
Kind of like you did.
Right in the middle?
Yeah, how you showed me there. Yeah, basically right in the middle. And I did 2 of them really quick this morning, and I got Nick Scorton in both of them in the 1st round. So they think they had him at like number 31 on the big board. So, and then the next player I got at number 60 was Demetrius Knight. He's a linebacker from South Carolina, and he was number 33 on the board. So he slipped to me in the 2nd round, getting a linebacker. So, and I got an A+ for that one. And I'm starting to get the hang of this PFF mock thing. So maybe one of these days I'll put my note and let you guys see one of mine, because I'm horrible at it.
Hey, just have fun with it. That's what it's all about. So Auteur says mobility is a myth, and says that the Lions were number 2 in rushing TDs, a fact that Allen, Jackson, and Hurts gobblers always avoid when taking slaps at Goff. Yeah, that's extremely smart. If you are putting out a book, I mean, just let me know. Let me know. Email me, mailbag@rockdown.com. We'll promote your book for you.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for today's extended version of the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Appreciate you guys all sticking around, joining us, going through the Brad Holmes conversation from yesterday. We'll highlight Dan Campbell tomorrow morning. I'll obviously be highlighting a lot of what's gone on today. Once I get some lunch, we'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a great day. Probably go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.